The Red Keep had learned to celebrate without joy. Even its songs sounded like knives slid back into sheaths, quick, bright, and eager to be used again. The hall was thick with heat and perfume, with the crushed herbs of cook's hands and the sour sweetness of wine that had been poured too often and too carelessly. Gold dripped from every surface, a gilding so eager it felt like an apology. King Joffrey Baratheon sat above them all, as a boy might sit atop a stolen horse, too proud to notice the animals trembling. His crown glittered like a threat. When he laughed, the sound skittered through the hall and struck men in their ribs. Some laughed with him. More laughed at the beat too late, like the echo of a shout in a narrow alley. Down below, Tywin Lannister watched the king's hands. He watched the goblet. He watched the little twitch at the corner of Joffrey's mouth when the boy lied, because the boy lied as easily as he breathed. Sansa Stark sat like a shadow given a chair, her eyes lowered, her expression carved into something that would not break if struck. If she had been any other girl, Tyrion thought, the sight of her would have shamed the whole court into silence. But shame had become a rare coin in King's Landing, clipped and counterfeited until it bought nothing at all. On the dais, Queen Regent Cersei Lannister's gaze was a chain. It looped around her son's throat in possessive pride, around the hall in suspicion, around every cup and platter as if poison might rise from the plates in the shape of a man's name. Across from her, Marjorie Tyrell wore her beauty like a banner, bright, clean, and meant to be followed. Behind that banner sat Lady Olenna Tyrell, small as a seed and twice as sharp. Her eyes moved, patient as a spider's. It was meant to be a feast of reconciliation, a show of the new order, a promise, pressed into the mouths of lords with sweet meat and songs, that the city had survived its own hunger and fire and would now dine like a civilized realm again. But the promise felt brittle. The air carried too many old screams. Joffrey raised his goblet, spilling a ribbon of red that ran down his wrist like a fresh wound. "To the enemies of the crown," he said, and the hall froze around the words. "May they choke on their last breath before they ever see my mercy." A ripple of laughter, highborn and forced, broke like thin ice. Tyrion's jaw tightened. He saw Cersei's smile sharpen. He saw a few men glance toward the doors, toward the dark beyond the torches, as if expecting the dead to walk in and claim a seat. Joffrey drank. First, nothing. The boy smacked his lips, made a face, and looked down his nose like a judge displeased by testimony. He lifted the goblet again, drank deeper, as though daring the wine to offend him, and then his smile faltered. His hand paused halfway down. Joffrey swallowed hard. His throat worked. His eyes widened, not with fear at first, but with outrage. How dare the world deny him something as simple as breath? A thin sound escaped him, something between a cough and a laugh. He set the goblet down with sudden care, as though it had become a dangerous animal. His fingers went to his throat. The hall shifted. The music faltered. 100 conversations died in their mouths. Joffrey rose too quickly, chair scraping. His lips parted, and the sound that came out was wrong. A wet rasp. He bent forward, one hand clutching at the golden collar of his tunic, as though he could rip it open and pull air into his chest with his fingers. Cersei stood, wine forgotten. "Joffrey!" He looked at her then. The boy's eyes were wide and furious and suddenly young. He tried to speak. He could not. The fury bled into terror. A goblet toppled. Someone shouted for a maester. Someone else backed away as if the king were already infected. Joffrey's cough became a retch. Red spattered the white tablecloth like a torn banner. His knees buckled. Guards surged, too late and too uncertain, hands hovering as though touching the king might doom them. Tyrion was on his feet before he knew he had moved. "Make way," he barked, because shouting was the only language this court understood. He saw Sansa's face, blank, pale, held together by a thread. And he hated himself for looking at her, for thinking even for a heartbeat that her innocence mattered in a hall built to devour innocence. Joffrey fell. For a moment he hung half over the table, crown slipping. his cheek pressed into roasted meat. Then he slid to the floor with a sickening thud, like a sack of grain dropped from a cart. Cersei's scream tore through the hall. It was not a mother's cry alone. It was a queen's, the sound of power wounded. "Help him!" She snarled at everyone and no one. "Help my son!" Ser Jaime Lannister was not there. Ser Gregor Clegane was not there. The mountain was elsewhere, doing the crown's work with his fists. The Kingsguard that remained looked suddenly like boys in white cloth, their blades useless against a throat that would not open. Grand Maester Pycelle pushed forward, trembling, beard shaking like a frightened animal. He knelt, fumbled at Joffrey's jaw at his neck. The king's eyes bulged. His fingers clawed at his own throat, nails scraping skin. The rasping turned to a horrible silence that made the hall lean closer, as if the realm itself needed to witness the exact instant a king became a corpse. Tyrion's mind, sharp as it was, could not prevent the court's mind from forming one single thought, one single accusation that tasted like blood, poison, treason. Lannister on Lannister, Northwoman with a cup, dwarf with a motive. Cersei's gaze snapped to him like a whip. It struck him full in the chest, and for an instant Tyrion felt the old boyhood fear, that helpless certainty that his sister's hatred could become law simply because she wished it. "You," Cersei said, and it was not an accusation yet. It was a prophecy. Joffrey convulsed once, as if trying to deny even th. Then his body went still. The crown rolled off his head and clinked against the stone, small and ordinary as any ring dropped by a careless hand. The hall did not breathe for several heartbeats. Then, somewhere near the doors, a man began to pray. Quietly at first, others joined him. A murmur rose, fear disguised as devotion. And Tyrion Lannister, standing with red wine on his hands that he did not remember spilling, looked at the dead boy on the floor and understood, with cold clarity, that the war had just changed its shape. Eddard Stark heard the scream as a tremor through stone. The black cells did not carry sound kindly. They swallowed words and prayers and sobs, turned them to muffled moans and distant thuds. Yet this scream forced its way down regardless, a blade driven into the belly of the earth. It woke rats. It made the water that ran along the floor shiver. Eddard lifted his head from where it had sagged against the wall. He had been counting breaths again, a habit he had taken up to keep himself from thinking of ice and steel and the square above. He tasted damp on his lips. His wrists ached where iron rubbed skin raw. He listened. At first, there was only the slow drip of water and the soft scuttle of something in the dark. Then came feet, many feet running. Voices, shouted orders. The black cells, so long a place of abandonment, suddenly felt like the foundation of a house on fire. The door groaned. Light spilled through the bars, thin and yellow. A silhouette appeared, round and soft where all else in the castle seemed made of edges. "Lord Eddard," Varys said, as though greeting him in a garden. "How very fortunate you are that you are still alive." Eddard's throat was dry. "Varys." The eunuch stepped closer, lantern held low. His face was carefully arranged into concern, but his eyes were bright with something else. Alertness, perhaps, or relief, or the private delight of a man who has watched a die roll the way he hoped. "What has happened?" Eddard asked. It was not curiosity. It was the habit of command. Even here, chained, he could not quite stop being the man who expected answers. Varys made a small sound of sympathy. "The world has shifted above us, my lord. There has been a tragedy. Speak plain." Varys's lips pursed in a mock of seriousness. "King Joffrey Baratheon is dead." For a moment Eddard could not fit the words into meaning. A king dead meant chaos. It meant blood. It meant the realm's thin skin torn open. It meant, gods forgive him, the possibility that the blade meant for his neck might be lowered. "How?" he demanded. Varys shrugged, delicate as a dancer. "Poison, it seems. The hall is in turmoil. The Queen Regent is beside herself. Accusations fly like ravens with broken wings." Eddard closed his eyes. He saw Joffrey's face. The smug, cruel curl of the boy's mouth as he had ordered the execution. The child king's voice had been bright with the thrill of cruelty. Dead now, gone. It should have felt like justice. Instead, it felt like a stone dropped into deep water. The splash would be brief, but the ripples might drown them all. Robert's sons, Eddard murmured. Tommen. Yes, Varys said softly. Tommen is alive. Sweet, gentle Tommen. A boy who would rather stroke cats than watch heads fall. A boy, Eddard said, and there was bitter amusement in it despite himself. Another boy. Not for long, if the court has its way, Varys replied. He set the parchment down on the damp stone between them, careful not to dirty his sleeves. Lord Eddard, you are to be brought before the court at dawn. There is confusion about your sentence. My sentence was death, Eddard said. He felt the iron bite his wrists as he shifted. The king spoke it. Varys gave him a look that was almost gentle. The king is no longer in a position to speak. Eddard stared at him. He did not trust Varys. He trusted him less than he trusted most snakes, because snakes at least announced their nature by hissing. Varys did not hiss. He smiled. Why are you here? Eddard asked. To offer advice, Varys said, and the words fell like coins into a beggar's cup. And perhaps, my lord, to offer you a last chance at doing the thing you came south to do. Serve the realm, Eddard said, and the phrase tasted like ash now. Varys nodded as though they discussed the weather. Yes, serve the realm, because if you do not, I fear it will devour itself. Queen Regent Cersei Lannister will blame Tyrion Lannister. House Tyrell will deny everything. The faith will howl. The small folk will riot again. And beyond all that, there is the matter of Lord Stannis Baratheon. Eddard's heart tightened. Stannis. He will not stay quiet now, Varys said. Nor will Lord Renly Baratheon. 2 brothers with claims, and each will gather men. That is the shape of the next storm. Eddard's mind raced despite fatigue. He saw banners. He saw roads slick with mud and blood. He saw his daughters, one a hostage and one missing, and the thought of war made him sick with helplessness. And you, Varys continued, are a symbol, a man wronged, a man who confessed, a man who might be spared, a piece on the board that many would like to move. Eddard leaned forward as far as chains allowed. What do you want from me? Varys's smile softened. Only that you do not waste whatever chance the gods have placed in your lap. If you live, my lord, then live usefully. If you die, then die in a way that does not drag the realm behind you. Eddard's jaw clenched. And my daughters? Varys's gaze flickered, a brief shadow. Sansa Stark is alive. She remains within the castle walls. Arya Stark is harder to find, but the city is full of hidden things. Lord Eddard. Some are easier to retrieve than others. Eddard swallowed, the name of his younger daughter like a knife under his ribs. You will help me? I will help the realm, Varys corrected gently. Sometimes that aligns with helping you. He lifted the parchment again, the seal unbroken. At dawn, you will be brought up. You will be asked questions. You must answer carefully. You must not speak of claims and blood and rights as though they are clean things. Speak of peace. Speak of mercy. Speak of your willingness to take the black if offered. Eddard's eyes narrowed. You think they would send me to the wall? They might, Varys said. If it serves them, if it quiets the north, if it removes you from the game without making a martyr of you. Eddard stared at the lantern flame, at the way it shivered on the damp stones. The wall, the night's watch, a cold exile. He had once thought of it as honorable, the last refuge of men who had spent their honor elsewhere. Now it looked like life. Above, another shout echoed down the stone throat of the castle. The city moved like a wounded animal. Varys stepped back toward the door. Rest, Lord Eddard. You will need your strength for the morning. And remember, today the realm lost a king. Tomorrow it may lose itself, unless someone gives it a reason not to. The door groaned shut. The light vanished. Eddard Stark sat in the dark, the scream still vibrating in his bones, and tried to decide whether mercy in King's Landing was a gift or another blade. Cersei Lannister did not weep the way other women wept. Her grief, when it came, did not soften her edges. It honed them. The queen's solar smelled of smoke and old roses. The hearth roared as if it wished to climb the chimney and burn the whole keep clean. Cersei paced before it like a lioness in a cage, her crimson gown dragging over rushes, her bare feet silent. Her hair had come loose, golden strands sticking to the damp of her cheeks. If she had looked fragile, Tyrion might have felt pity. But she looked like a blade drawn and thirsty. "You were closest to him," she said, voice low and shaking with restraint that made it more dangerous. "You poured the wine." Tyrion held his hands out, palms up. It was an old gesture. As a child, he had used it to show he carried no weapon when Cersei cornered him with her cruelty. It had never saved him then, and it would not save him now. Still, he did it. Habit was hard to kill. "I did not poison him," Tyrion said. He tried to make the words calm. If he made them angry, she would take that as proof. Cersei's eyes flashed. "Do not lie to me. I saw you. I saw your hand." "You saw what you wished to see," Tyrion replied, and regretted it immediately, because Cersei did not forgive truths spoken aloud. Grand Maester Pycelle wrung his hands near the table, looking as if he might faint at any moment. The goblets from the feast lay scattered like evidence. One cup had dried red along the rim. The sight of it made Tyrion's stomach twist. "Poison," Pycelle stammered. It must have been. The king. Seven save him. His throat." "Enough," Cersei snapped. She whirled on Pycelle with such force the old man flinched. "You were useless when Robert Baratheon died. Useless when the city burned. And now you dare stammer in my face like a wet hen. Find the poison. Find the hand that delivered it, or I will have your chain melted down and poured into your mouth." Pycelle made a thin sound of protest, but it died under her gaze. Ser Meryn Trant stood by the door, his expression carved into vacant obedience. Two Lannister guards flanked him, red cloaks stiff as blood-stained banners. Their eyes shifted between the queen and the dwarf, as if uncertain which way the wind would blow. In King's Landing, Tyrion thought, loyalty was a coat men wore until it rained. "You are frightened," Tyrion said quietly. "That makes you dangerous." Cersei's laugh was a harsh bark. "You think you know fear? You, the creature who killed my mother in the cradle of my womb, who shamed my father, who has kept this family from collapsing under the weight of your pride." Tyrion cut in, and now anger did leak through, hot and sharp. He saw it land in her eyes, saw it turn to delighted hatred. She loved when he made it easy for her. "Take him," Cersei said. The words fell like a stone in water. The guards shifted. Tyrion's heart did not race. It sank, heavy and inevitable. He had known this moment would come since the day he had been born with a twisted leg and a clever mouth. Ser Meryn Trant stepped forward. "Wait," a voice said from the doorway, smooth as oiled leather. Lord Peter Baelish drifted in as if he owned the room. He wore gray and mocking smiles. Behind him came Varys, soft-footed, hands folded like a priest's, eyes attentive. The sight of them together made Tyrion's skin crawl. Spiders did not hunt in pairs unless the web was large. Cersei's chin lifted. "Lord Peter, Lord Varys, have you come to kneel?" "I have come to offer help," Peter Baelish said, and bowed shallowly. "We have lost a king. That is a wound that will fester if not stitched quickly." "My son is dead," Cersei said. "And you speak of stitches." Peter Baelish's smile softened into something almost sincere. "I speak of preventing the realm from bleeding out. There will be questions. Lords will smell weakness. They will circle. They can circle my walls," Cersei hissed. "They can choke on my arrows." Varys cleared his throat gently. "Your Grace, the city is restless. The small folk already whisper. They remember hunger. They remember fire. If they believe the gods have taken your son as punishment, The Faith will have 1,000 tongues to feed that idea. Cersei's hands clenched. The Faith serves the crown. The Faith serves itself, Tyrion murmured, and Cersei's glare snapped back to him like a lash. Peter Baelish stepped between them with a practiced ease that made it feel as though he had been born to stand between blades. There is another matter, Your Grace. Lord Tywin Lannister is not in the city. He is in the riverlands dealing with rebellious banners. Until he returns, the court will look to you. They will obey me, Cersei said. They will watch you, Peter Baelish corrected. And Lord Stannis Baratheon will not be idle, nor Lord Renly Baratheon. They will hear that the king is dead and assume the gods have opened a door. Cersei's eyes narrowed. Stannis Baratheon is a grim fool on a bleak rock. Renly Baratheon is a vain boy playing at crowns. Perhaps, Varys said softly, but even vain boys can gather men when the realm is hungry for certainty. Cersei's breath hitched. For a heartbeat, Tyrion saw the mother beneath the queen, the woman who had lost a child and could not bear to lose another. Tommen, she whispered, and the name came out like a prayer. Peter Baelish nodded. Tommen Baratheon must be crowned quickly. The court must see continuity. And he glanced at Tyrion, his smile faintly apologetic. A culprit must be named, at least for now. The realm likes its tragedies simple. Tyrion felt a cold clarity settle over him. So that is it. A scapegoat to hold the fear. Cersei's eyes gleamed. A scapegoat, she echoed, and there was satisfaction in it. Yes, and I have one. Varys lifted a hand. Your Grace, there is another path. The north is restless. The riverlands burn. If you execute Tyrion Lannister now, you may lose House Tyrell's favor, Lady Olen. A Tyrell is not fond of rash judgments, and you will certainly inflame your Lord Father, who remains your strongest shield. Cersei's gaze flicked, sharp and calculating, as if she could already hear Tywin Lannister's voice in her mind. It would not be grief or softness. It would be cold instruction. Do not squander assets. Do not indulge hatred when it costs you power. Her lips curled. Then we will not execute him. Not yet. Tyrion exhaled. Slow, careful. A reprieve, not mercy. Cersei pointed at him. Confine him, watch him, and watch that little wolf girl beside him. Sansa Stark has been poisoned since she walked through our gates. Tyrion's stomach nodded. She is a child. Cersei's smile was thin. So was my son. Peter Baelish's eyes glittered with interest. Varys's expression remained politely pained, like a man hearing of rain at a wedding. Now, Cersei said, and her voice turned steel again. Find me a king to crown and a traitor to hang, and send word to my father. He will come. He will put this realm back into his hands. Tyrion watched her, and in that moment he understood something grim. Joffrey Baratheon's death had not ended cruelty. It had simply removed a boy's vanity from the throne and left behind a mother's fury. Outside, somewhere beyond the thick walls, the city began to murmur like a wounded beast. Tywin Lannister read the letter twice. Because disbelief was a luxury he did not permit himself. The first time, he read it as a father. The words slid under his skin like cold iron. Joffrey dead. The boy had been a spoiled monster, yes, but he had been a crown, a symbol, a shield for Lannister rule. The second time, Tywin read it as a lord. The words arranged themselves into numbers. Men, banners, roads, time. He folded the parchment with a precision that made the action seem like a verdict. Who wrote this? The messenger swallowed. Grand Maester Pycelle's seal, my lord. It was carried by the fastest horse. Pycelle, a trembling old leech of a man. But even leeches knew when to cling harder. Ser Kevan Lannister stood beside Tywin in the tense dim dawn light, his face a practical mask. He had seen war enough to know that a king's death was not an ending. It was the moment a new war sharpened its teeth. Cersei will want blood, Kevan said quietly. Cersei always wants blood, Tywin replied. His voice was calm. Calm was what he used to hold the world in place. What does she do? She blames Tyrion Lannister, the messenger said quickly, eager to be useful. She has ordered him confined. Tywin's mouth tightened. He did not allow his anger to flare. Anger made men stupid. Of course. He turned back to the map, though his eyes did not see the ink. Harrenhal's black towers loomed outside the tent like broken teeth. Around them, the riverlands lay bruised. This war, had been a problem of rebels and routes, of supplies and sieges. Now it became a problem of legitimacy. "Send ravens," Tywin said, "to every bannerman. The king is dead. Tommen Baratheon must be crowned immediately, with the full weight of the realm displayed in the Great September. There must be no pause for men to imagine alternatives." Kevin nodded. "And Stannis Baratheon?" Tywin's eyes hardened. "Stannis Baratheon has always imagined himself an alternative. Now others will imagine it with him." Bronn leaned against a tent pole, half in shadow, a Sellsword's grin on his face as if kings dying were good entertainment. Tywin did not look at him. He did not like men who enjoyed chaos too openly. They were either fools or predators. "A king's death invites knives," Bronn said, voice lazy. "Plenty of men get ideas. Plenty of men need killing." Tywin finally glanced at him. "Your ideas are not required." Bronn shrugged. "Just saying. If the realm wants a culprit, it'll take the easiest one. Dwarfs already in chains. Convenient." Tywin ignored the insolence and addressed Kevin. "We ride. Today. I will not be absent while my daughter tears the realm apart with her grief." Kevin hesitated. "The riverlands. The riverlands will still be here when I return," Tywin said. "Burning as always. The crown is what matters. Without it, every fire spreads." He stepped out of the tent. The camp smelled of wet leather and horses, of sweat and cold iron. Men looked up as he passed. Straightening, eyes alert. They believed in him, not because he was kind, because he was certain. A raven croaked from a nearby cage, as if mocking certainty. Tywin mounted his horse. The saddle creaked. He looked east, toward King's Landing, though it was far beyond hills and rivers. In his mind, he saw the Red Keep like a fortress built on sand. Cersei would be screaming. The Tyrells would be smiling. Varys would be listening. Peter Baelish would be making himself useful. And somewhere beneath it all, the city would be hungry. He rode with his outriders at once, a crimson line cutting through morning mist. He did not allow himself to imagine the boy Joffrey's face, purple and bulging, or the sound of Cersei's scream. Those were distractions. Still, as the road dipped and rose, Tywin found his thoughts drifting, unwilling, to Eddard Stark. The man was meant to be dead by now, yet the letter had mentioned confusion about the sentence. Confusion in King's Landing was like blood in the water. Sharks did not wait politely. Tywin's eyes narrowed. "If they have not killed Stark," he murmured, "they intend to use him." Kevin rode close. "Against the North?" "Against everyone," Tywin said. "A living Stark is a banner. A dead Stark is a martyr. The choice depends on what they fear more." "And what do you fear more?" Kevin asked. Tywin's jaw tightened. "I fear a realm that forgets who rules it." The horses' hooves beat a steady rhythm on the road. Behind them, Harrenhal's black towers faded into the mist like old nightmares. Ahead, King's Landing waited, bright, rotten, and suddenly more dangerous than any battlefield. Dragonstone had always felt like a place the world had abandoned, a fortress left behind when the tide receded. Its stone dragons crouched along the walls, weathered and ancient, their mouths open as if they had once roared and then forgotten the sound. The sea below churned like something angry. Stannis Baratheon stood in the wind with a raven scroll in his hand, and the paper shook as if it feared him. His armor was dark and plain, more suited to war than court. The salt air had stiffened the leather at his joints. He looked like a man carved from the cliff itself, unyielding, cold, and meant to endure. Davos Seaworth waited a step behind, hands clasped, his fingers still rough from ropes and oars despite his new titles. The wind tugged at his cloak. He could smell the sea and the faint smoke of Dragonstone's hearths, and beneath it all the strange sweetness that always clung to Melisandre like perfume. "Read it again," Stannis said. Davos swallowed. He had already read it twice, once to himself and once aloud, and each time the words had seemed less real. "King Joffrey Baratheon is dead," he said carefully, "poisoned at a feast in the Red Keep. The Queen Regent intends to crown Tommen Baratheon." Stannis's mouth tightened. Tommen, another boy, another lie. Melisandre's red eyes gleamed in the gray light. "The Lord of Light has turned his face," she murmured. "The false king has fallen." Stannis did not look at her. His gaze remained on the black water, on the distant smear of land where King's Landing sat like a sore. "Robert's son," he said, voice flat. "Dead, just as Robert died, just as Jon Arryn died. The realm rots." Davos hesitated. "Your Grace, men will say this is a sign." "Men say whatever fills their mouths," Stannis snapped. Then his voice lowered, as if each word had to be dragged from stone. "But you are right. It is a sign. The realm is leaderless, weak. It will tear itself apart." Melisandre stepped closer. The wind did not seem to touch her. Her red silk clung to her as if warmed from within. "It will tear," she said softly, "unless the one true king takes his throne." Stannis finally turned his head. His eyes were hard, the color of storm clouds. "Do not speak to me of prophecy as if it is a crown I can wear. I have a claim. Blood, law. That is enough." Davos cleared his throat, careful. "Renly Baratheon will hear of this, Your Grace. He has been gathering friends. He will gather more now." Stannis's expression flickered, something like pain, quickly buried. "Renly Baratheon is a boy in silk playing at war. A boy with charm," Davos said, and regretted the honesty when Stannis's eyes sharpened. "Men follow charm, sometimes more than law." Melisandre's smile was faint. "Men follow fire when the night is cold." Stannis's fingers crumpled the scroll slightly. "If the Lannisters crown Tommen and the realm accepts it, my claim becomes a whisper. If Renly moves first, my claim becomes a joke." Davos stepped closer, speaking low against the wind. "Then move first." Stannis's jaw worked. He looked out again at the sea. The water was black and restless, like a field of ink stirred by unseen hands. "If I move," he said, "it is war. War comes whether you move or not," Davos replied. "The question is whether it comes for you or with you." Melisandre's voice slipped between them like smoke. "There is another war, Stannis Baratheon. A war older than crowns." Stannis's eyes narrowed. "Speak." Melisandre lifted her face to the wind as if tasting it. "I have seen shadows moving in the far north. I have seen a wall of ice weeping. I have seen dead men walking with blue fire in their eyes." Davos's stomach tightened. He had heard such talk from sailors, half-drunk tales told to frighten green boys. But Melisandre did not sound like a sailor. She sounded like certainty. Stannis's expression did not change, but Davos saw the small tension in his shoulders, the way a man stiffens when he hears a wolf in the dark. "The Night's Watch sends no ravens about dead men," Stannis said. "They send ravens about wildlings," Davos offered, because it was safer than admitting fear. "And winter, and their need for men." Melisandre's eyes gleamed brighter. "They will send ravens soon, and the realm will laugh, because the realm has been laughing for too long." Stannis turned, cape snapping. "Davos, prepare ships. Summon the lords who have sworn to me. We sail for Storm's End and we raise my banners." Davos blinked. "Storm's End? Not King's Landing." Stannis's mouth twisted. "King's Landing is a pit of vipers. Storm's End is mine by right, and Renly Baratheon is there. If my brother means to steal my crown, he will do it from my house." Melisandre watched him with a look that was almost tender. "Yes," she whispered, "bring your brother to you. Bring the realm's false lights together." The true fire will burn brightest when the others are close. Davos felt the chill of those words settle in his bones. He bowed. As you command, your grace. As he turned to go, the wind carried the cry of gulls and the crash of waves against stone. It sounded, for a moment, like distant applause, or distant warning. Stannis Baratheon remained on the cliff, staring toward the south, preparing to claim a throne. Behind his eyes, Davos wondered, how much room was there for the north and its whispered terrors? How much room did any king leave for anything that was not a crown? Storm's End had weathered 1,000 sieges and still looked ready for another. Rain battered its walls as if the sky itself meant to test the stone. Inside, the great hall glowed with hearthfire and laughter, the warmth of men who believed the world could be won by smiling at it. Renly Baratheon wore green and gold as if the colors belonged to him by right. He stood with a goblet in hand, talking to lords of the Reach, men fat with harvest and pride. Their cloaks dripped rain onto the rushes, but they did not mind. They spoke of banners and marriages and how quickly the realm might fall into their hands if they simply reached for it with confidence. Brienne of Tarth stood near the dais, stiff as a spear. Her armor was dark with rain, her hands clasped at her waist. She did not laugh. She watched Renly Baratheon as if her gaze could shield him from the world's knives. Maester Cresson moved like a ghost of the castle's past, hunched and trembling, clutching a raven scroll. His hands shook so badly the wax seal looked in danger of falling off. "My lord," he said, voice thin. "News from King's Landing." Renly turned with easy grace, smile ready. "If it's another complaint from my brother, Cresson, tell the raven to fly back with my laughter." The lords chuckled. Someone slapped the table. Cresson swallowed. "King Joffrey Baratheon is dead." The hall shifted, laughter dying like a candle in wind. Renly's smile remained, but it changed shape. It became sharper, more thoughtful. "Dead," Renly said, and his voice was almost gentle. "How unfortunate." "Poison," Cresson whispered. "The Queen Regent will crown Tommen Baratheon." Renly took a slow sip of wine, as if tasting the news. "Tommen," he said, "a sweet boy. He will make a lovely puppet." A few lords laughed again, nervously this time. Brienne's jaw tightened. "A king is dead," she said, voice low. "This is not a jest." Renly glanced at her, and the warmth in his eyes softened. "Of course not, Brienne. Forgive me. It's only..." He looked back at the hall, at the men who had come to him with promises and armies. "It's only that the realm has just opened its gates." He did not say the name, but everyone heard it. Crown. Then the doors opened. The rain wind rushed in, cold and hard, snuffing some of the candle flames. A line of men stood in the doorway, dark cloaks dripping. At their head was Stannis Baratheon. He looked like a storm given human shape, grim, unadorned, carved from stubbornness. His armor was dark, his jaw set, his eyes cold. Behind him, Davos Seaworth stood with a damp cloak and a watchful face. Farther back, Melisandre's red figure was a smear of color against gray stone, like a fresh wound. Renly Baratheon's smile returned, but now it was guarded. "Brother," he said, "you've come a long way in foul weather." "I did not come for your hospitality," Stannis said. The Reach lords murmured, uneasy. Brienne shifted, hand near her sword. Renly set his goblet down slowly. "Hen, what did you come for?" Stannis stepped forward, boots striking stone. "For what is mine?" The hall held its breath. Renly spread his hands, performing innocence. "Storm's End." Stannis's eyes did not blink. "The crown." A ripple of laughter ran through the Reach lords, quick and disbelieving. Renly's smile widened, but there was no humor in it now. "The crown," he echoed. "You are very bold, brother." "I am lawful," Stannis corrected. "Robert Baratheon is dead. Joffrey Baratheon is dead. Tommen Baratheon is not Robert's son." The words struck like a slap. The hall erupted in murmurs. Renly's face tightened. "Careful. Accusing the queen of adultery is a fine way to lose your head. It is truth, Stannis said, and the cold certainty in his voice made the claim feel heavier. Eddard Stark discovered it. Jon Arryn discovered it. They died for it. At the mention of Eddard Stark, Brienne's gaze flicked, briefly, uncertainly. The name carried weight even here. Renly's eyes narrowed. Eddard Stark is a traitor in chains. Stannis's gaze cut to him like a blade. Perhaps, or perhaps the realm has chained its only honest man. Davos cleared his throat softly. "My lords," he said, "a king has died and another may die soon if we do not settle this." "Settle?" Renly said, amused again. "You mean bend the knee?" "Yes," Stannis said. Renly laughed then, loud and bright, and the Reach Lords joined him, relieved to have a familiar sound to cling to. "You have no army worth speaking of," Renly said. "No friends. No charm. The realm will not follow you because you say the word law as if it is a prayer." Stannis's mouth tightened. "The realm will follow me because I will break those who resist." Melisandre stepped forward, her red eyes catching firelight. "The night is coming," she murmured, and her voice slid through the hall like a chill draft. "A night that will swallow crowns and castles alike." Renly's laughter faltered. He looked at her, wary. "And who are you, my lady, to speak of night?" "A servant," Melisandre said, "of the only God who answers." Brienne took a step, protective. "Get back," she warned. Renly lifted a hand, calming her. He looked back at Stannis. "Brother," he said, softer now, "I will not fight you. Not yet. The realm has lost one king. Cannot endure brothers spilling each other's blood. Let us speak." Stannis's eyes hardened. "We are speaking." Renly's gaze flicked to the Reach Lords, to the weight of their banners. He knew Davos realized that he could crush Stannis here if he chose. But Renly also knew that crushing Stannis might make him a kinslayer in the realm's eyes. And kinslaying was a curse no crown could polish away. Renly sighed, as if burdened by the realm's foolishness. "Then hear me," he said. "If you truly believe Tommen Baratheon is a lie, then the realm needs a king it can love, not merely endure. A king with an army that can put down riots and rebels, not one that will simply grind the into ash." Stannis's jaw clenched. "You mean yourself." Renly's smile was small. "I mean what is necessary." The hall hung between them like a sword suspended by a thread. Davos watched Stannis Baratheon's face. He could see the war inside him, the war between stubborn law and the knowledge that the realm did not care about law when its belly was empty and its fear was full. Then, faintly, from somewhere beyond the walls, thunder rolled. Sounded, for a heartbeat, like drums. Snow fell in the north as if it meant to bury memory. Winterfell's great hall was warm with fire, but the warmth felt fragile under the weight of the beams and stone. The hearth crackled. The smell of smoke and roasted meat should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like the last comfort before a long march. Robb Stark stood by the long table with a raven scroll in his hand. His fingers were so tight around the parchment that the edges crumpled. His face was young, but the line of his jaw had hardened since the day his father had ridden south. There was a wolf in him now, a thing awake and wary. Catelyn Stark stood beside him, her hands clasped as if holding herself together. Her eyes were fixed on the seal, on the red wax like dried blood. Maester Luwin waited with the quiet patience of a man who had seen many winters and knew that messages were often the first snowflake in an avalanche. "Well?" Theon Greyjoy asked, too casual. He leaned against a pillar, dark hair loose, his smile quick as a knife. He looked like someone eager for drama, as if the realm's pain was simply another story to tell by firelight. Robb's eyes flicked to him, cold, then back to the scroll. He read aloud, each word scraping like stone. "King Joffrey Baratheon is dead, poisoned. The court is in turmoil. Lord Eddard Stark's sentence is under review. The Queen Regent prepares to crown Tommen Baratheon. Rumors speak of Lord Stannis Baratheon and Lord Renly Baratheon gathering banners. Pray for peace." Silence swallowed the hall. Cailin's breath hitched. "Under review," she whispered. "Robb, does that mean?" Robb's mouth tightened. "It means they do not know what to do with him," he said. His voice was steady, but beneath it ran something fierce. "It means they may spare him to quiet us." Theon gave a low whistle. "Or it means they want to draw you south," he said. "A living Stark is bait." Robb's gaze snapped to him. "Enough." Theon lifted his hands in mock surrender, but his eyes glittered. "I'm only saying the South plays games. Always has." Cailin's face was pale. "If there is a chance," she said. "Any chance that Eddard Stark lives." Robb looked at his mother, and for a moment the boy showed through the Lord. "If he lives," he said quietly, "then I must move carefully. If I march, they may kill him. If I do nothing, they may kill him anyway." Maester Luwin spoke softly. "The realm is shifting, my lord. A dead king invites war, but it may also invite negotiation." Robb turned the scroll in his hands. He stared at the ink as if he could wring certainty from it. "Negotiation," he repeated. The word sounded strange in Winterfell, where men trusted swords more than promises. Cailin stepped closer, voice urgent. "Robb, if they crown Tywin Baratheon, the Lannisters will claim the throne still. They will pretend nothing has changed. But with Joffrey dead, their grip weakens. We must press." Robb shook his head. "Press with what? We have not called the banners. Not yet. Father told me to keep the north safe. If I march too soon, I leave Winterfell exposed. If I march too late, Father may die. Or..." He stopped, because the next thought was too bitter. "Or Father may live and still be lost." Outside, the snow thickened, silent as ash. Theon leaned forward, voice softer now. "If the king is dead," he said, "the Ironborn will smell it. They'll raid. They always do." Robb's eyes narrowed. "Balon Greyjoy will not move while the realm watches him." Theon's smile was thin. "My father does not care if the realm watches. He cares if it bleeds." Cailin's hand tightened on Robb's arm. "We need answers," she said. "From King's Landing. From your father, if he can send word." Robb's gaze went to the direwolf at the base of the hearth. Grey Wind lifted his head, eyes bright in the firelight, ears pricked, as if he too listened to ravens and distant screams. Robb Stark felt suddenly as though the north stood on a cliff edge. Below lay war. Above lay a sky full of falling snow and unanswered questions. He looked at Maester Luwin. "Send ravens," he ordered. "To White Harbor, to the Dreadfort, to Last Hearth. Tell them to be ready. Quietly. No banners yet. No drums." Maester Luwin nodded. Robb turned back to the scroll, to the line that mattered most. "Lord Eddard Stark's sentence is under review." "Hold on," Robb whispered, so low only the wolves might hear. "Hold on, father. If the gods have left you alive, then I will not waste it." Outside, the wind moaned against Winterfell's walls. It sounded like something old and hungry, circling. The great September of Baelor smelled of wax and desperation. Candles burned in their thousands, trembling as if even flame feared the city's mood. The air was thick with incense and the sweat of too many bodies pressed close. Lords in silk and steel stood shoulder to shoulder with septons in rough cloth, each pretending that proximity meant unity. Above them all, the Seven's faces stared down from carved stone, serene and judging. Tywin Baratheon looked very small beneath the vaulted ceiling. The crown on his head seemed too heavy for his neck, as if it might pull him to his knees. He held his hands clasped before him, fingers twisting, eyes wide with a fear that had nothing to do with gods and everything to do with the people watching him. Queen Regent Cersei Lannister stood at his side, tall and rigid, her grief hidden under armor made of posture and pride. Her jaw was set as if she meant to bite through fate itself. She wore black trimmed with gold, mourning made regal. Her gaze swept the crowd like a searching blade. Marjorie Tyrell stood a few steps behind, serene, her expression composed as a painting. The Tyrells had dressed in soft colors, as if to suggest gentleness after tragedy. It was a clever lie. Lady Olenna Tyrell's eyes, sharp beneath her hood, missed nothing. Tyrion Lannister was marched through the aisle in chains. The links clinked loud enough to draw every eye. He kept his chin up. He refused to hunch, yet he could feel the crowd's hunger. They wanted someone to blame, someone to spit at, someone to hang so they could go home believing the world had been fixed. Then the murmuring shifted, rippling like a startled flock. Eddard Stark was brought forward under guard. He was thinner than when he had come south, his beard grown wild, his cheeks hollow. But his eyes were the same, gray and steady, like winter sky. Chains bound his wrists, though the guards held them loosely, as if even iron was uncertain whether to claim him. Cersei's gaze landed on him, and for a moment her face flickered. Anger, calculation, something like fear. A living Stark had become a problem she had not wanted to solve. The High Septon raised his hands, his voice rolling through the Sept like thunder wrapped in prayer. He spoke of the gods' will, of kings as instruments, of the realm's need for peace. The words were soft cloth thrown over a wound that still bled. When the crown was blessed and placed properly upon Tommen's head, the boy flinched as if struck. The crowd murmured, "Long may he reign," with a reluctance that tasted like old ash. Cersei lifted her chin. "Long may he reign," she repeated louder. It was less blessing than command. The High Septon turned then, unexpectedly, toward Eddard Stark. "Lord Eddard," he said, voice gentle in a way that made the name sound like a plea. "You confessed to treason before the realm. You spoke against the rightful king. But now the gods have taken that king, and the realm stands in fear. The crown offers you mercy, if you will accept penance." Cersei's eyes narrowed. Tyrion's chains tightened as the guards yanked him back a step. Marjorie's gaze flicked, curious. Eddard Stark looked up at the seven-pointed star above the altar. He did not kneel. Not yet. "What mercy?" he asked, voice hoarse but clear. The High Septon spread his hands. "You will take the black. You will go to the wall. You will serve the realm in silence, far from crowns. In exchange, the crown will spare your life. Lady Sansa Stark will remain under the crown's protection. The crown will consider the matter of Arya Stark when she is found." Catelyn Stark was not here to hear those words. Robb Stark was not here to weigh them. Eddard Stark stood alone beneath the eyes of gods and vipers. He felt the crowd's weight. He felt the city's hunger. He felt the truth of Stannis Baratheon's claim like a hot coal under his tongue. He felt the memory of Robert Baratheon's laughter, now dead. He felt the sharp, brittle rage of Cersei Lannister and knew that she did not offer mercy out of kindness. She offered it because it served her, and somewhere in the back of his mind, he remembered letters from the wall, reports of wildlings moving, of cold deeper than winter. He remembered Benjen Stark's absence. He remembered the old stories he had dismissed as children's tales and now could not quite shake. He bowed his head slowly. "I will take the black," Eddard Stark said. A murmur rolled through the September relief. Disappointment, confusion. Cersei's lips tightened. This was not the spectacle she had wanted. She had wanted blood, but blood would have been messy now, in a city already trembling. Better to send the Stark away and call it mercy. Better to keep Sansa Stark as leverage. Better to pretend the realm was healing. The High Septon lifted his hands again. "Then the gods witness your penance. Rise, Lord Eddard. You are condemned to life." Eddard Stark lifted his head. His eyes met Cersei's across the candlelit air. He saw no forgiveness there, only the cold promise that she would remember. As guards led him away, Tyrion Lannister's gaze found him for a brief instant. Two men bound by the same court's hunger. Tyrion's eyes were sharp with suspicion and something else. A question he did not dare ask aloud. Eddard Stark did not answer it. He could not. Words were too dangerous here. Behind them, the Sept's candles burned and burned, trying to hold back darkness with wax and prayer. Outside, beyond the marble steps, King's Landing murmured like a wounded beast. The road north was a long penance. Eddard Stark rode with his wrists bound and his cloak thin against the cold, and each mile felt like a confession whispered to the wind. The Kingsroad stretched ahead, gray and hard, flanked by leafless trees that clawed at the sky. Snow lay in patches like scattered ash. The air tasted of iron. The men of the Night's Watch who had come to escort him did not speak much. They were not cruel. They were simply weary, as if the world had already asked too much of them. Their black cloaks fluttered like ravens' wings. Yoren walked ahead, hood up, lantern swinging. His beard was stiff with frost. He had the look of a man who had learned to expect nothing from kings. "You ride well for a man who was meant to die," Yoren grunted at one point, not looking back. Eddard's mouth was dry. "I have had practice," he said. Yoren snorted. "I practice living with your head on a block." They passed villages that smelled of hunger. People watched from doorways, eyes wary. Some spat when they saw the Stark chained. Some bowed, uncertain. A few made the sign of the seven as if warding off bad luck. In the south, Eddard Stark had become a story. Stories were dangerous. They spread like fire. At night, they camped off the road. The wind moaned through branches. The men ate hard bread and salted meat. Eddard sat by the fire with his hands still bound, and he listened to the crackle of flames and the distant howl of wolves. He thought of Sansa Stark, left behind in the Red Keep, a hostage wrapped in silk. He thought of Arya Stark, missing in the city's belly, running or hiding or dead. The unknown was the worst torture. It was a blade that never struck, only hovered. One night, as the fire burned low, a raven came out of the dark and landed near the camp like a scrap of night given feathers. A man caught it, fingers quick, and brought the scroll to Eddard. The seal was black. The writing was cramped, hurried. Eddard read by firelight until his eyes burned. Castle Black reported missing rangers. Wildlings moving south in numbers. Strange cold even for winter. Men found dead with no wounds, only eyes frozen open. And then one line, underlined twice as if the writer had needed to force himself to make ink tell the truth. "The dead do not stay dead." Eddard's breath fogged. He reread the line. His mind reached for reason, for explanation, for any ordinary horror to replace the old stories he had heard as a boy at Winterfell's hearth. "Bad business?" Yoren asked, watching him. Eddard folded the parchment carefully. "The wall is in trouble," he said. Yoren scratched his beard. "The wall is always in trouble. That's why it's there." Eddard looked into the fire. The flames licked at the air like hungry tongues. "Not like this," he murmured. Yoren spat into the snow. "If you say so, Lord Stark. Either way, you'll see it soon enough." The next day, the sky turned the color of old bruises. Snow fell harder, thick and silent. The world narrowed to the road, to horse's breath, to the creak of leather. Eddard felt the cold seep into his bones, slow and relentless. It reminded him of Winterfell. It reminded him of the North's honesty. Winter did not pretend. As they neared Moat Cailin, the land grew wilder. The trees thickened. The air smelled of pine and damp earth beneath snow. Eddard's heart tightened when he saw the first Stark banner in the distance. Gray direwolf on white. For a moment he felt the pull of home so sharply it hurt. But the banner did not come for him. It held its place. A reminder, not a rescue. The realm's politics still had teeth. That night, camped beneath dark pines, Eddard dreamed of a wall of ice weeping water like tears. In the dream, he stood atop it with a sword too heavy to lift. Below, a sea of faces stared up, dead faces, pale and patient. Among them, he saw familiar eyes. Men he had judged, men he had condemned, men he had failed to save. They did not scream. They simply waited. He woke with his heart pounding, breath sharp. The fire had burned low. The men slept in huddles, black cloaks like piles of shadow. Beyond the camp, the forest was silent in a way that felt wrong. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Eddard Stark stared into the dark and realized, with a cold clarity, that the wall might not be an exile at all. It might be the realm's last gate. The far north did not care who sat a throne. Its silence was older than crowns, older than castles, older than the names men carved into stone to pretend they mattered. Beyond the wall, the world was stripped down to bone and ice. Trees became twisted spears. Rocks became black teeth. Snow covered everything in a clean lie. A ranger of the Night's Watch stumbled through drifts, breath tearing from his lungs in ragged bursts. His cloak was shredded, black cloth snagged and torn as if the forest itself had tried to strip him bare. His cheeks were raw with cold. His eyes darted back again and again, not daring to look too long. Behind him, the snow did not crunch. That was the worst part. Men feared wolves because wolves announced themselves. Howls in the night, paws on frost, teeth bared. But this came like the end of sound. He had been hunting wildlings. That had been the order. Wildlings gathering, raiding, moving in numbers that suggested a king. The Watch had chased those rumors as it always had, because wildlings were a problem that fit in a man's hands. You could stab a wildling. You could bargain with a wildling. You could hang a wildling and call it justice. Then they had found the bodies. A camp, a ring of half-frozen fire ash. Men lying as if they had simply gone to sleep. No wounds, no blood. Their faces were pale, their mouths open, eyes wide, frozen in expressions that suggested they had seen something that did not belong in the world. The ranger had knelt by one body and touched the man's cheek. It had been cold as stone. He had whispered a prayer he barely believed. Then the dead man's eyes had snapped open, bright as a winter sky, and the prayer had died in his throat. The ranger ran now because he had learned the truth too late. Death was not an ending here. It was recruitment. He tripped over something half buried in snow. A horse, dead and stiff. Its legs jutted at unnatural angles. He sprawled, palms scraping ice. Pain shot up his arms. He scrambled, trying to rise, and his fingers brushed against fur frozen hard. The horse's eye opened. It was not the dull eye of an animal waking. It was blue, sharp, unnatural, like a shard of sky trapped in ice. The ranger's breath caught. He tried to pull back, but the horse's corpse jerked, and stiff, dead legs scraped at snow. A sound escaped the ranger's throat, half scream, half sob. Then he felt it behind him, presence, a cold that did not come from wind. He turned slowly, because some part of him needed to see the thing that would end him. They stood in the moonlight like sculptures carved from frost. Tall, thin figures in armor that looked like ice made sharp. Their faces were pale and still, their eyes burning blue. They did not hurry. They did not need to. Time belonged to them. One stepped forward. Its movement was smooth, almost graceful, and the snow did not resist it. In its hand it held a blade that shimmered with a strange, pale light, as if moonbeam had been sharpened into steel. The air around it seemed to crackle. The ranger tried to speak. He tried to pray. His tongue felt thick. His lips were numb. He could not form words. The figure tilted its head, studying him as if curious. Then it lifted its blade. The ranger's mind flashed to Castle Black, to the wall, to the warm stink of men and ale and fear. He flashed to the south, kings and queens and games. He thought, absurdly, of how loud men were when they fought over crowns, how certain they were that their wars were the world's center. The blade descended. The ranger's scream was swallowed by the snow. Behind the white figures, corpses began to stir. Men who had once worn black rose with stiff limbs, eyes burning blue. The dead horse dragged itself upright with a wet, cracking sound of tendons snapping. Hands pushed up through drifts, fingers blackened with frost. Faces emerged pale and patient. The white figures turned as one, and they moved south, not marching, not charging, simply advancing with the inevitability of winter itself. Far away, a wall of ice stood against the sky, ancient and proud. It had held back darkness for thousands of years. Now, under the hard stars, the night began to gather in earnest, and it did not care how quickly the War of Five Kings had ended. It only cared that the living were finally ready to be harvested. Tywin Lannister had always trusted roads more than men. Men lied, men blustered, men swore oaths with trembling voices and then broke them the moment fear or coin pressed hard enough. Roads, at least, were honest. They were lines cut into the earth by need, and need did not pretend. A road would lead you where it led you, whether you liked the destination or not. The Kingsroad behind him had been long, and the lesser road he took now was shorter only in the way a blade is shorter than a spear. Still long enough to kill you if you were careless. He rode with a lean escort, not because he underestimated danger, but because speed mattered more than numbers. King's Landing was a nest of vipers in the best of times. Without him, it would become a pit of starving rats. Mist lay thick over the river like breath trapped beneath a blanket. Willows drooped at the banks, their branches trailing into the water as if they meant to hide something. The ford was narrow here, the stones slick, the water cold enough to burn through boots. Tywin's horse moved carefully, nostrils flaring, ears pricked. Animals, Tywin thought, were often wiser than the men who rode them. Ser Kevan Lannister kept close, a steady presence, his eyes sweeping the pale gray beyond the mist. Lannister guards rode behind them, cloaks damp, spears angled upward, the red and gold of their armor muted by fog. Their breath puffed white. Their horses' hooves made soft splashes that sounded too loud in the hush. Tywin's mind did not linger on grief. He forced it elsewhere, on logistics, on power, on the delicate arrangement of fear that kept the realm from biting itself apart. Joffrey's death was a hole in a tapestry. If left unmended, it would unravel everything. Tommen was a child. Cersei was grief and pride sharpened into a weapon that could swing wildly. Tyrion was a problem and a tool both, and the realm could not afford to waste tools. He reached the midpoint of the ford, where the water tugged at a horse's knees, when the first arrow hissed out of the mist. It struck a guard behind him, punching through throat and mail with a wet, intimate sound. The man toppled backward, arms flailing, disappearing into the water. The horse screamed, rearing, and another arrow took it in the eye. It fell with a splash that sent cold river water slapping into Tywin's face. For a heartbeat, there was disbelief. Then the air filled with the whisper of feathers and death. "Shields!" Kevan roared. Arrows fell in a sudden storm, dark streaks cutting through fog. A second guard spun in his saddle, an arrow in his shoulder, and then another in his chest. He slid off his horse as if easing into sleep. Men shouted. Horses screamed. The river churned with panic. Tywin did not flinch. He raised his voice, cold and sharp as a snapped whip. "Forward! Break through!" His horse surged, water splashing high. A guard tried to turn, to ride back the way they'd come, but the ford had narrowed, bodies and Allen horses clogging it. Panic turned men into cattle. From the bank, shapes emerged. Ragged men in patched cloaks, faces half hidden, bows bent. They were not knights. They did not wear banners like pride. They wore them like warnings. A banner rose from the fog, tattered, black and yellow, so old it looked like it had been carried through smoke and ruin. A man rode beneath it on a thin horse, his armor battered, his face scarred. He lifted a sword as if saluting. "Tywin Lannister," the man called, his voice carrying unnaturally in the mist. "You've burned enough villages. Today the river burns you." Tywin narrowed his eyes. The voice was familiar in the way rumor becomes familiar. "Beric Dondarrion," he said, not as a question. The man smiled without joy. "Once. Names don't matter much now." To Beric's side stepped another figure, broad-shouldered, hair wild, beard thick. His blade was wreathed in flame, orange tongues licking up steel as if the sword itself had been fed on oil. The fire turned the fog into gold. The man's eyes gleamed, too bright. Thuras of Myr, Tywin thought. The Red Priest, the cell's word of gods. A Lannister guard lunged toward the bank, spear lowered, but the reeds swallowed him. A knife flashed. The guard fell with his mouth open, soundless. Kevan's horse sidestepped as another arrow struck near its flank. Kevan twisted in his saddle, sword drawn, shouting for men to press forward. "With me!" Tywin's horse took a step, then another. He could see the far bank now, a smear of mud and willow roots. If he reached it, he could form ranks, cut through. The ambush was narrow. It relied on choking the ford. Break the choke and the trap snapped. Then an arrow struck Tywin's horse in the neck. The animal screamed, a raw, terrified sound. It lurched. Tywin's hands tightened on the reins, controlling it by force of will and training, but the horse staggered. Water splashed up, cold and biting. Tywin's boot slipped on the stirrup, his balance shifting. A second arrow came, low and fast, and sank into Tywin Lannister's side just beneath the ribs. Pain flared hot and immediate, shocking only because it was so blunt. Tywin's breath caught. He looked down and saw the shaft, the fletching trembling as if eager. The world seemed suddenly quieter, as if the river itself waited. Kevin shouted Tywin's name, and the sound snapped the moment back into motion. Tywin's jaw clenched. He reached for the arrow, not to pull it free. He was not a fool, but to steady it, to keep the movement from tearing him further. Blood spread beneath his armor, warm against skin. Beric Dondarrion rode closer to the bank, sword lifted. "You can end this," he called. "Surrender. Answer for what you've done." Tywin Lannister's laugh was thin and dry. "To outlaws?" he rasped. "To ghosts and priests?" He looked at the flaming sword, at the tattered banner. "You are nothing." Thuras raised his burning blade, flame reflecting in his eyes. "We are what your W.A.R. made." Tywin's horse stumbled again. Its legs buckled. Tywin tried to shift, to dismount with dignity, but the pain in his side robbed him of strength. He fell into the river with a splash, water flooding cold into his armor. For a heartbeat he lay half submerged. The world tilted, the sky pale above, mist closing in. Hands grabbed at him, Kevin's men shouting, dragging him toward shallows. Tywin's fingers clawed at mud. His chest heaved. He tasted river water and iron. Beric's men pressed forward along the banks, arrows still falling. Kevin fought like a man trying to carve a path through fate itself, sword flashing, shouting orders, cutting down a ragged spearman who tried to wade into the ford. A Lannister guard shoved a shield over Tywin as arrows thunked into wood. Tywin's eyes found Kevin's face, grim, desperate, loyal. Tywin wanted to speak. He wanted to command. He wanted to instruct Kevin on what must happen next. Secure Tommen, control Cersei, hold the Tyrells, crush Stannis. The world needed his will, but his breath would not obey him, came in shallow pulls. The cold water tightened around him like a shroud. Beric Dondarrion's horse stepped to the very edge of the ford. Beric looked down at Tywin with a strange sorrow, as if even vengeance could not quite satisfy what had been taken. "Tell them," Beric said quietly, voice carrying over the river. "Tell them the river remembers." Tywin Lannister's mouth moved, but no words came. He felt warmth spreading inside his armor, an intimate flood. The mist blurred. The sky above seemed suddenly vast. He had built his life on certainty, on the belief that if you grasped power hard enough, the world would yield. As darkness crept at the edges of his vision, Tywin realized, with a final cold clarity, that the world did not yield forever. It simply waited for the moment you were forced to let go. The raven arrived before Kevin did. It came in through a narrow window slit like a shard of night, wings beating hard, and the maester who took it flinched as though it had talons made of knives. The seal was smeared. The parchment inside was damp, ink blotted in places by water or blood. Queen Regent Cersei Lannister read it once. Her lips parted. She read it again, slower, as if the second reading might change the letters into something less impossible. When it did not, her hand tightened until the parchment creased. Tommen Baratheon stood beside her, small fingers clutching at the sleeve of her black gown. He looked up at her face as if trying to learn how to be brave. "Mother?" he whispered. Cersei did not answer. Her eyes were fixed on the words. "Tywin Lannister is dead." The chamber felt suddenly too bright, too exposed. The candle flames seemed to waver as if frightened. Mace Tyrell sat at the table across from her, heavy and perfumed, his fingers jeweled. Lady Olenna Tyrell sat beside him, draped in muted silk, her expression unreadable. Varys hovered near the window, hands folded, eyes soft. Peter Baelish leaned against a carved chair as if it belonged to him, his smile faint and watchful. Grand Maester Pycelle cleared his throat, trembling. "Your Grace." Cersei's gaze snapped up. For a heartbeat it looked like she might tear his tongue out with her eyes. "Say it," she hissed. "Say the words aloud so they can hear how foolish they sound." Pycelle swallowed, the movement visible in his long neck. "Lord Tywin Lannister has perished." Tommen's grip tightened on Cersei's sleeve. He began to shake. "Grandfather?" he asked, voice thin. Cersei's hand moved to Tommen's head, fingers splaying in his hair, but the gesture was more possessive than comforting. She stared at the table, at the maps and ravens, at the pieces of the realm laid out like a carcass waiting to be carved. "My father does not perish," she said, and the words were not denial so much as rage at reality for daring. Peter Baelish's voice slid in smooth as oil. "Reality is dreadfully inconsiderate, Your Grace." "Silence," Cersei snapped. The door opened with a heavy groan. Ser Kevan Lannister entered like a man carrying winter on his shoulders. His cloak was mud-stained. His gauntlet was dark with dried blood. His face looked older by years. He bowed, but there was no courtly flourish in it, only duty done because the body remembered it. Cersei stepped forward in one swift motion, her grief boiling into accusation. "Where is he?" Kevin's eyes met hers, and in them she saw something she hated. Helplessness. "Gone," Kevin said quietly. "Ambushed at a ford. Outlaws. River folk. A priest with a burning sword. We fought. We..." His voice caught on the word, the first crack in his composure. "We could not reach him in time." Cersei made a sound that was almost a sob, but it turned into a snarl. "Outlaws? River folk? My father killed by peasants. Lady Olenna Tyrell's." Lips pursed. "The riverlands have been distressed," she murmured, as if discussing weather. "Distressed people do rash things." Cersei's gaze whipped toward her. "Do not speak as if this is a lesson. This is an outrage." "It is also a problem," Lady Olenna said, unbothered. "Outrage is very satisfying, but problems do not care about satisfaction." Mace Tyrell shifted, clearing his throat in discomfort. "We must think of the realm," he said, as though the phrase might shield him from the danger of the room. "Of stability. Of your harvests," Cersei said, venom thick. "Of your silks. Of your pretty little roses safe in their gardens while my father bleeds in mud." Varys stepped forward, hands open in calming gesture. "Your Grace, if I may." "You may not," Cersei snapped. Then she looked down at Tommen, at his trembling mouth, and her voice softened by a fraction. "Go," she told him. "Go with Ser Boros. Now." Tommen's eyes widened. "Mother! Now!" A Kingsguard took the boy gently by the arm. Tommen looked back once, terrified, before the door closed behind him. The chamber seemed colder without him. Cersei turned back to Kevin, to the Tyrells, to the spider and the mockingbird. "My father held this realm together," she said. "He held our enemies by the throat, and now he is dead." Her voice rose. "Now what? Stannis Baratheon will come. Renly Baratheon will come. Robb Stark will come. Every vulture will circle." Peter Baelish smiled faintly. "Vultures are, in their own way, very practical creatures." Cersei's eyes narrowed. "And you will feed them, I suppose, for a price." "For the realm," Peter Baelish said, placing a hand over his heart in a parody of sincerity. "Always for the realm." Kevin stepped to the table. He looked down at the map as if trying to impose order on ink. "We cannot fight them all," he said. "Not now. Not without Lord Tywin." Cersei's chin lifted. "Yes, we can. We have gold. We have the city. We have fear." Kevin corrected, and his voice hardened. Fear is not an army. Fear breaks when men believe you can bleed. Lady Olenna's eyes gleamed. Quite. Mace Tyrell leaned forward, eager to seize the moment. This is why, he began. We must move quickly to show unity. Crown Tommen publicly, yes, but more than that, call a council. A great council. Let the lords gather. Let them see the realm's leaders united. Let. Cersei's laugh cut him off, sharp as glass. A great council, she spat. So the lions can be judged by sheep? By wolves and stags as well, Lady Olenna said. And perhaps, if we are very lucky, by sensible men. Cersei's hands trembled. You mean to strip my son of his crown? No, Lady Olenna said, and her tone sharpened with impatience. We mean to keep your son alive. That landed like a slap. Cersei's breath hitched. For an instant her mask slipped and the mother showed again, raw and afraid. Tommen, she whispered, and the name came out like a prayer. Then she forced her. Spine straight. Fine, she said at last, each letter forced. You want a council. You want to gather the lords like crows around a corpse. Then we will call it. We will host it. And we will show them that the lion still has teeth. Lady Olenna's gaze held hers. Yes, she said softly. Do show them, dear. Teeth are very useful, provided you know which direction to bite. Outside, somewhere deep in the castle, Tommen Baratheon began to cry. Storm's End did not bend to the wind. Its walls were too thick, its stones too stubborn. Yet even here, in a chamber built to defy storms, the air felt unsettled, as if the castle itself sensed the realm cracking beyond its cliffs. Stannis Baratheon held the letter with black wax in one hand. The seal had been broken with an impatience that had torn the parchment slightly. His eyes moved over the ink again and again, as if trying to force it to confess some hidden truth. Renly Baratheon lounged in his chair, green cloak draped over one shoulder, fingers idly tapping the armrest. He wore ease like armor. Brienne of Tarth stood behind him, a silent tower, her presence a wall between Renly and any blade. Davos Seaworth leaned forward at the table, hands clasped, his face earnest. Melisandre watched from the corner, her red eyes catching brazier light like embers. Tywin Lannister is dead, Davos said quietly, because someone had to say it aloud. Renly lifted his brows. Well, he said, voice light, that is convenient. Stannis's gaze snapped up. Do not joke. Renly's smile thinned. I am not joking. I am acknowledging an opportunity. The lion's head is off the beast. The rest will flail. Stannis's jaw tightened. The rest will bite. Cersei Lannister will not yield. She won't have much choice, Renly said, and his fingers stopped tapping. Without Tywin Lannister, her threats are thinner. The Tyrells will push. The court will splinter. Men will look for a king who can end the uncertainty. Stannis's voice was iron. They will look for the rightful king. Renly laughed softly. Rightful, he echoed. A charming word. Tastes of old books and dusty law. Men don't follow law when they're hungry. They follow hope. Davos's eyes flicked between them. He could feel the old pattern forming. The brothers circling, each certain, each stubborn. The realm a prize they would rip apart in the tug of war. He had seen ships sink because captains refused to share a helm. We can end this without blood, Davos said, and the words came out sharper than he intended. Tywin Lannister dead means the realm can be spared another war. If you two fight, you'll only make it easier for Cersei Lannister to survive by letting you bleed each other. Renly leaned forward slightly, amused. You speak boldly for a smuggler. I speak plainly, Davos replied, because plain truth is the only coin I have. Stannis's eyes narrowed. You would have me bargain with him. Davos met his gaze. I would have you win, he said. Not by killing your brother, by using him. Brienne's hand tightened on the hilt of her sword. Her eyes flashed. Lord Renly Baratheon is not a tool, she said, voice low and fierce. Renly glanced back at her, and his expression softened. No, Brienne, he said gently. But I am a man with an army, and armies are tools whether we like it or not. Stannis's voice turned cold. You have an army because you wear green and smile. I have a claim. You have a claim, Renly agreed, and the easy mockery faded from him. He looked suddenly tired, as if the weight of crowns and brothers had begun to press. But you do not have men's hearts. You never have. You have never tried. Stannis's hand clenched around the parchment. I do not need hearts. I need obedience. Obedience breaks, Renly said. Love endures. Melisandre's voice slid into the silence like smoke. Both break, she murmured, when the night comes. Stannis did not look at her, but the words changed the air. Davos felt it. A tightening in the chest, a memory of cold. Dragonstone's cliffs, the Black Sea, that raven scroll from the wall with its cramped, frightened ink. Davos reached into his cloak and drew out another parchment. The seal black, the writing smeared with haste. This came after, he said. From Castle Black. Renly's brows rose. The Night's Watch, he said, as if hearing of beggars. What do they want? More men? More coin? Davos's voice was steady, but his fingers trembled slightly as he unfolded the letter. They want to be believed. He read aloud. Missing rangers. Wildlings moving south. Strange cold. Men found dead with no wounds. The dead do not stay dead. Renly's smile had vanished by the third line. Brienne's face went pale beneath her harsh features. Even Stannis's expression shifted, just a fraction, a crack in stone. Renly swallowed. Stories, he said, but the word lacked conviction. Stannis's voice was low. The wall has stood for thousands of years, he said. Men do not write such things lightly. Melisandre stepped forward, red silk whispering. The enemy you fear is not your brother, she said softly. Not the lion, not the wolf, not the rose. There is an older darkness. I have seen it. Renly's gaze flicked to her, wary. And you expect me to kneel because you claim to see shadows? Stannis slammed his fist on the table, making the brazier flame leap. Enough, he snapped. He looked at Renly, and there was something raw in his eyes now. Something like pleading badly disguised. You mock law, you mock duty, but you cannot mock this. If the wall falls, no crown will save you. No army will save you. Renly stared at the letter. The chamber felt suddenly smaller, as if the walls had crept closer. Davos leaned forward, voice quiet. You can end the realm's bleeding today, he said. You can stop the war before it starts. The Lannisters have lost their father. The court will call a council. They will try to trap you with words. If you go together, if you stand together, the realm will follow. Stannis's jaw worked. Together, he said, as though tasting something bitter. Renly looked up slowly. His green eyes were bright, not with laughter now, but with calculation and something that might have been fear. If I bend, he said, you will treat me as a subordinate. You will punish me for wanting what you never wanted, admiration. I will treat you as my brother, Stannis said, and the W. Ord sounded awkward in his mouth, like armor that didn't fit. And as a valuable weapon. I cannot win without you. Renly's lips curved. Faint. That's almost flattering. Stannis's face hardened again. I will name you Hand, he said, and the chamber held its breath. And I will name you my heir until I have a son. Brienne made a small sound, half shock, half relief. Davos felt his heart pound. It was a bargain Stannis Baratheon would have once considered an insult. Now he offered it like a lifeline. Renly's gaze flicked to Brienne, to Davos, to the letter from the wall. He breathed in slowly, as if tasting the sea air through stone. And Shireen Baratheon? He asked quietly. Stannis's eyes tightened. Shireen Baratheon remains my daughter, he said. She remains under my protection. When she is older, she will be wed to bind what needs binding. But she will not be cast aside. Renly nodded slowly. Very well, he said, and the words seemed to surprise even him. He stood, straightening his cloak, and stepped toward Stannis. For a heartbeat, the brothers faced each other like dueling swords. Then Renly Baratheon dropped to one knee. "My king," he said. Stannis Baratheon stood rigid, as if unsure what to do with victory when it did not come wrapped in blood. He stared down at his brother and said, "Horse, rise." Renly rose. Brienne's eyes shone as if she had witnessed a miracle. Davos exhaled, slow, feeling something loosen in his chest that had been knotted for years. In the corner, Melisandre smiled, small and secret. "The first fire," she whispered. "Now we gather the rest." Outside, thunder rolled over Storm's End, and for once it did not sound like an omen of brothers killing brothers. It sounded like the realm being warned. Moat Cailin rose from the marsh like the ribs of a dead giant. Its towers were broken, its stones eaten by damp and time, yet it still guarded the north the way a scar guarded flesh. Mist curled through the reeds and low water, hiding sinks and pools that could swallow horses whole. The air smelled of rot and cold mud. Ravens perched on ruined stone, black silhouettes against gray sky. Robb Stark sat his horse at the edge of the causeway, gray wind pacing beside him with restless energy, nose lifted as if tasting every scent the marsh offered. Northern bannermen held behind Robb, their faces hard, their hands on sword hilts. They had come ready for battle. They had not come ready for this. Eddard Stark rode toward them between men in black. Chains bound his wrists, though the links looked almost obscene against the familiar lines of his body, the familiar set of his shoulders. He wore a Night's Watch cloak over his old northern furs, black swallowing gray. His hair was longer, his beard grown. His face was thinner, but his eyes, those winter eyes, were unchanged. Catelyn Stark made a sound that was not quite a sob and not quite a laugh. She stepped forward, boots sinking slightly into damp earth, as if drawn by a force she could not resist. "Ned," she whispered. Eddard's horse slowed. He looked at her, and for a heartbeat the years fell away. The court stink, the chains, the screams, the South. All of it receded until there was only the sight of his wife, her face carved by worry and grief and fierce love. "Catelyn," he said, and his voice broke on her name. Robb Stark did not move at first. He sat rigid, knuckles white on reins, staring as if afraid the figure before him might vanish if he blinked. Then he swung down from his horse in one swift motion and strode forward. "Father," he said, and his voice held too much, a flood behind a dam. Eddard Stark's throat worked. Chains rattled softly as he shifted. He wanted to embrace his son, to wrap his arms around him and hold him as he had when Robb was small and eager and safe. But the chains made the gesture impossible. The men in black watched, wary. Yoren stood a little aside, arms crossed, gaze sharp. "Quick," he muttered. "We don't linger. Roads ain't friendly." Robb stopped a step away, breath shaking. He stared at the chains. His face darkened. "They did this to you?" he said, voice low with rage. "They spared me," Eddard replied. "Spared you?" Robb echoed, bitter. "In chains. They spared me so they could use me," Eddard said, and he looked past Robb to the banners behind him, to the wolves and bears and flayed men and mermen. "Do not let them." Catelyn's hands lifted, trembling. She touched Eddard's cheek, fingertips brushing his beard. "We can bring you home," she whispered fiercely. "We can take you back to Winterfell. We can raise the banners and—" "No," Eddard said, and the word fell heavy. "No, Gat." Her eyes flashed with disbelief. "No." "The wall," Eddard said. "I have taken the black. The vow will be spoken at Castle Black. If I break it, I become a deserter. And if I break it, the realm will break with me." Robb's jaw tightened. "The realm already broke," he said. "They killed you in all but name. They took Sansa. Arya," his voice caught. "Arya is still missing." Eddard's eyes closed briefly, pain sharper than any arrow. When he opened them again, there was steel there. "I know," he said, "and that is why you must be clever, not loud." Robb's hands clenched. "Tell me what to do," he demanded, because he was still his father's son, still reaching for instruction when the world went mad. Eddard looked at him for a long moment, measuring the man Robb was becoming. Then he spoke quietly, each word chosen like a stone laid in a wall. "The South will call a council," Eddard said. "They are frightened. Joffrey Baratheon is dead. Tywin Lannister is dead. The Lions are wounded. Stannis Baratheon will press his claim. Renly Baratheon has gathered banners. They will try to lure you into war because war is the only language they know." Robb's eyes narrowed. "And we should refuse." "Yes," Eddard said. "Refuse the war they offer. Demand terms. Demand the North's rights. Demand peace if peace can be had." He leaned forward slightly, chains clinking. "Because there is another war." Cailin's brows knit. "Another war?" Eddard's gaze went north, as if he could see beyond marsh and pine to the wall's white line against the sky. "The Night's Watch has written," he said. "They speak of wildlings moving, of strange cold, of dead men that rise." The bannermen behind Robb shifted, unease rippling. One man muttered a prayer. Another spat, as if to ward off superstition. Robb's face tightened. "Old tales," he said, but his voice lacked certainty, because he could see the seriousness in his father's eyes. Eddard's voice grew firmer. "I have always taught you to be cautious with old tales," he said, "because sometimes, Robb, a tale endures because it is true." Cailin's hand slid to her throat, fingers pressing as if to steady her breath. "Ned," she whispered, "you believe it?" Eddard looked at her. "I do not know," he said, and honesty made the words heavy. "But I have seen enough lies in King's Landing to recognize fear when it is real. The wall is afraid." Robb swallowed. He looked down at Grey Wind, who stared north with ears pricked, hackles faintly raised. "What do you need from us?" Robb asked. Eddard's gaze sharpened. "Hold the north," he said. "Do not march south for vengeance. Not yet. Be ready to send men north if the watch calls. And if the council offers peace, take it if you can take it without bending your neck too far." Robb's hands trembled, not from cold. "And Sansa?" he asked, voice strained. "And Arya?" Eddard's eyes darkened. "Do not trade the North's survival for one hostage," he said, and the words tasted like poison even as he spoke them. "But do not abandon them either. Use peace as a KN. Use it to pry Sansa free. Use it to search for Arya. Use it to keep them alive." Cailin's breath shook. "You ask us to bargain with monsters." Eddard's mouth tightened. "I ask you to live," he said. "All of you." For a moment, the marsh wind sighed through broken stone. Ravens shifted on their perches. The world seemed to hold its breath around a family speaking farewell in a place built for last stands. Robb stepped closer. He reached out and gripped his father's forearm where chain allowed, fingers closing hard. "I will," he said, voice thick. "I swear it. I will hold the North. I will be clever. I will not waste you." Eddard's eyes shone faintly, though he did not weep. "Good," he whispered. "That is all a father can ask." Cailin leaned in, pressing her forehead to his cheek briefly, tasting salt and cold. "Come back," she whispered, foolish and desperate. Eddard closed his eyes. "I will go where the realm needs," he murmured. "And God's help us. It may need the wall more than it needs a throne." Yoren spat into the marsh. "Time," he grunted. "We move." Eddard's horse shifted forward. Chains rattled. The men in black urged him on. Robb and Cailin stood on the causeway watching until black cloaks disappeared into mist. Grey Wind growled low in his throat, a sound that followed the departing riders like a warning. When Eddard Stark was gone from sight, the marsh felt colder. Cailin turned to Robb, eyes fierce. "We go to the council," she said. Robb stared north a moment longer, then nodded. "We go," he agreed, "and we take peace if peace can be made." In the reeds, something splashed softly, unseen. Castle Black did not sleep so much as doze with one eye open. The wall loomed above the world like a white cliff, vast and indifferent. The wind that came off it was sharp enough to slice through wool and pride alike. Snow whipped through the yard, stinging faces, turning torches into wavering orange ghosts. Men moved hunched, cloaks pulled tight, breath fogging. Jon Snow had grown used to the cold, but this night felt different. It was not merely winter's bite. It was a cold that made the hairs on his arms rise beneath his black sleeves, a cold that seemed to seep from somewhere deeper than sky. He was halfway through his patrol when he heard the scream. It cut through wind and stone like a blade through cloth. Jon's heart slammed. He ran toward the sound, boots slipping on ice. Men shouted behind him. Another scream, shorter, strangled. The Lord Commander's chambers were ahead, light spilling faintly beneath the door. Jon threw it open. The smell hit him first, rot and old blood, sharp and sour beneath the warmth of the room. The hearth fire flickered wildly, shadows jerking across the walls like frantic hands. Jeor Mormont grappled with something on the floor, something that was once a man. The corpse's skin was pale and stretched, lips peeled back from teeth. Its eyes were blue, bright as frozen flame. It moved with an unnatural strength, clawing at the Lord Commander's throat with blackened nails. Samwell Tarly stood near the door, frozen, mouth open, a soundless scream trapped behind his teeth. His face was white. In his hands he held a dagger that shook like a leaf. Ghost the direwolf snarled, hackles raised, teeth bared. The wolf lunged, snapping at dead flesh, but the thing struck with stiff arms and sent Ghost skidding back, whining, claws scraping. "Jon!" Jeor Mormont roared, voice strangled. Jon did not think. Thinking was slow. He moved on instinct like a blade drawn. He lunged forward and drove his dagger into the corpse's back. The point sank into cold flesh as if into wet leather. The thing did not cry out. It did not bleed. It twisted with impossible speed and flung an elbow into Jon's chest. Pain exploded. Jon staggered, breath knocked out. The Wight surged toward him, hands clawing. Jon grabbed a nearby chair and smashed it into the corpse's face. Wood splintered. The Wight's head snapped back, skin tearing, but it kept coming, relentless, patient. "Fire!" Jon gasped, and he did not know if he spoke to Sam or to the gods. Samwell Tarly blinked as if waking from nightmare. His eyes darted to the hearth, to the burning logs. His hands fumbled. Then he snatched a torch from the wall, flame sputtering. Jeor Mormont kicked the Wight off him with a roar and rolled toward the bed, coughing, one hand clutching his bruised throat. Jon grabbed the corpse again, wrestling with it, its limbs stiff and strong. Its skin was cold enough to burn his palms. The smell of rot filled his nostrils. Its blue eyes stared into his wit. A strange calm, as if it recognized him the way a predator recognizes prey. Sam thrust the torch forward, flame licking. Jon seized the Wight's arm and forced its chest toward the fire. The flame touched dead cloth and caught at once, hungry. The Wight jerked, not in pain, but in furious resistance, as if fire were the only language it hated. Jon shoved the torch harder, driving flame into ribs. Fire roared up the corpse's chest, climbing like a living thing. The room filled with heat and smoke. The Wight thrashed, arms flailing, striking furniture, knocking over a table. Flame spilled onto cloth. The chamber became chaos. Firelight and shadow, smoke and cursing. Ghost lunged again, snapping at the burning corpse's legs, then leapt back as fire spit. The Wight's movements slowed as flame consumed it. The smell became unbearable. Burned meat, hair, old death made new. Its blue eyes flared brighter for a heartbeat, then dimmed, as if the fire ate whatever cold light lived behind them. It collapsed, burning, into a heap of blackened bone and cloth. Silence fell, broken only by crackle of flame and the harsh wheeze of Jeor Mormont's breathing. Jon stood panting, chest aching, smoke stinging his eyes. His hands shook. His dagger dripped nothing, no blood, only a faint dark smear. Jeor Mormont pushed himself upright, face grim beneath gray beard. His eyes locked on the charred remains. That, he rasped, voice raw, was no wildling trick. Samwell Tarly made a small, broken sound and sank to his knees. Tears ran down his cheeks, cutting clean tracks through soot. It was dead, he whispered. It was dead. Jon's mouth was dry. He stared at the ash, at the bones, at the certainty that fire had reduced it to nothing, and yet it had nearly killed the Lord Commander. How did it get in here? Jon asked, voice hoarse. Jeor Mormont's gaze flicked to the corner where a black cloak lay crumpled. One of the men brought back from beyond the wall, dead in the cold. It came with us, he said, like a gift. Jon felt cold crawl up his spine, colder than wind. He remembered the letters, the missing rangers, the strange cold, the stories old men told by hearthlight. Send ravens, Jeor Mormont said, and the command was steel despite his bruised throat. To every lord who still remembers there is a wall. Tell them the dead walk. Tell them fire stops them sometimes. Tell them we need men. We need dragonglass if the tales are true. We need... He coughed, then forced the words out. We need the realm. Jon's eyes went to the window, to the pale blur beyond, to the wall's immense shadow. For the first time since he had come here, he did not feel like a bastard seeking belonging. He felt like a man standing at the edge of the world, watching something ancient wake. Outside, the wind howled along the wall's face like a long, hungry breath. Tyrion Lannister's wrists felt strangely light without chains. The sensation should have been relief. Instead, it made him uneasy. Chains were honest. They told you where you stood. Freedom in the Red Keep was never true freedom. It was a leash made of silk. He stood in a private chamber with rain streaking the windows, listening to the storm batter the castle as if the sky meant to punish it. Cersei Lannister faced him across a table, her posture rigid, her eyes bright with a fury that had nowhere clean to go. Ser Kevan Lannister stood to one side, shoulders squared, the tension in his body like a drawn bow. Lady Olenna Tyrell sat near the hearth, hands folded, face composed. Marjorie Tyrell sat beside her, serene, eyes attentive. Varys hovered near a curtain, as if he had become part of the fabric. On the table lay a raven scroll, unrolled. The seal was black. Cersei's gaze flicked toward it, then back to Tyrion. Do you find it amusing, she said, voice low, that my father is dead and you stand here breathing? Tyrion kept his expression carefully neutral. I find nothing amusing, he said, though I suspect you would call that a lie no matter how I spoke it. Cersei's lips curled. I watched my son die, she hissed, in front of everyone. I watched him choke. And you. And I watched him die too. Tyrion cut in quietly. And I watched the court decide it must be my fault before his body was cold. Kevin's voice came sharp. Enough, he said. We are not here to pick at old wounds. We are here because the realm is cracking. Cersei's eyes flashed. The realm cracked when father died, she spat. Lady Olenna sighed. The realm cracked long before your father died, dear, she said, voice mild. Your father merely kept the crack hidden beneath his boot. Cersei's nostrils flared. She looked as if she might lunge at the old woman. Marjorie's hand tightened slightly on her gown, a subtle warning. Tyrion glanced at the raven scroll. And what is that? He asked, though he already suspected. Varys's voice was soft. A message from Castle Black, he said. The Night's Watch reports disturbances. Disturbances, Tyrion repeated, eyebrows lifting. That is a polite word for men dying in snow. Kevin's jaw tightened. He tapped the parchment with one finger. They claim the dead walk, he said bluntly. Silence fell. Even Cersei paused, as if the words had struck her with their absurdity. Cersei laughed sharply. The Watch has always been full of thieves and fools. Now they tell ghost stories. Tyrion leaned forward, eyes on the ink. The writing was cramped, urgent, the sort of hand that came from cold fingers and fear. He read the line about a corpse rising inside the Lord Commander's chambers. He read the line about fire. He read the plea for men. He looked up. "These are not the words of drunkards," he said quietly. Cersei's voice turned cold. "You believe this?" "I believe," Tyrion said, choosing each word, "that when men beg for help in such a way, something has frightened them beyond pride." Lady Olenna's gaze sharpened. "And frightened men," she murmured, "make excellent judges at councils." Kevin nodded. "The council," he said, gripping the word like a rope. "It must happen quickly." "Harrenhal," Cersei stiffened. "Harrenhal is cursed." "Perhaps," Tyrion said, "but it is large enough to hold the realm's hunger, and far enough from any one power that no one feels trapped." He looked at Lady Olenna. "And I suspect the Tyrells prefer a place where their heads are less likely to be separated from their necks." Marjorie's smile was small. "We prefer a place where reason has room," she said. Cersei's gaze cut to Kevin. "You agree with this?" she demanded. Kevin's voice was hard. "We cannot fight Stannis Baratheon and Renly Baratheon and the North and whatever the Ironborn might do once they smell weakness," he said. "Not without Lord Tywin. We need terms. We need unity. Or something that looks like it long enough to keep men from drawing swords." Cersei's face tightened. "You would give Stannis Baratheon the throne." Kevin held her gaze. "Stannis Baratheon has a claim," he said. "If Lord Eddard Stark spoke truth, then Tommen is not Robert Baratheon's son. If Stannis arrives with that claim and the faith behind him, the city will riot. Your son will die in your arms. Again." That struck her harder than any insult. Cersei's mouth parted slightly. Her eyes flicked away, as if she could not bear the image. Lady Olenna leaned forward. "You can keep your son alive," she said gently, "in the way a blade is gentle when it slides between ribs. Or you can keep a crown on his head until it is hammered into his skull. Choose." Cersei's hands trembled. She pressed them flat on the table, nails digging into wood. "And what of you?" she spat at Tyrion. "You sit here as if you are suddenly wise. You would counsel me to surrender? After all the poison and treason you bring to my house." Tyrion's smile was tired. "I would counsel you to stop imagining the realm is a toy you can throw against a wall when you are angry," he said softly. "Your father is dead. You are not your father, and you cannot will the world to obey by screaming at it." Cersei's eyes glittered with hatred. "I should have killed you when you were born. And yet you didn't," Tyrion said. "Perhaps because even you knew that a house that kills its own out of spite eventually runs out of blood." Varys murmured, almost to himself, "Blood has a way of running out at the most inconvenient times." Marjorie's gaze went to the raven scroll again. "If the dead truly walk," she said quietly, "then crowns mean even less than they already do." Lady Olenna's eyes narrowed. "If the dead walk," she corrected, "then crowns mean nothing at all." Kevin straightened. "Harrenhal," he said. "We summon Stannis Baratheon and Renly Baratheon. We summon Robb Stark. We summon the River Lords. We summon the Faith. We set the realm's CLA. In open air where everyone can see it." Cersei's throat worked. She looked suddenly exhausted, grief and rage weighing her down. "And if they take my son?" she whispered. Tyrion's voice softened despite himself. "Then you will have him alive," he said. "And in this world, that is more than most mothers get." Cersei stared at him, and for a brief, terrible moment, Tyrion saw not a queen but a woman drowning. Then the queen returned, snapping her spine straight. "Fine," she said, each word like a nail hammered. "Harrenhal, a great counsel." Her eyes burned. "But I will not be humiliated. I will not be stripped like meat." Lady Olenna smiled faintly. "No," she said, "you will be carved with care. Outside." The rain lashed the Red Keep's windows like fingertips impatient to get in. Harrenhal devoured light. Its towers loomed like broken teeth against a sky the color of dirty wool. Even when torches blazed along the hall and banners hung in bright strips, the place felt hungry, as if it remembered every scream that had ever been fed to its stones. Yet the realm came anyway. They arrived in processions that looked like small wars. Wagons, guards, knights, tents rising outside the castle like a temporary city of suspicion. Banners snapped in wind. Stag, lion, wolf, rose, trout. Faith's seven-pointed star. Even lesser sigils came, eager to attach themselves to whatever outcome promised survival. Inside the ruined Great Hall, the Great Council assembled beneath blackened beams. Torches hissed. Smoke curled up toward a ceiling scarred by old fires. The air smelled of damp stone and sweat and the sharp, bright scent of steel. Stannis Baratheon stood at one end, dark armor plain, jaw set, eyes cold. Beside him stood Renly Baratheon in green and gold, his beauty a deliberate contrast to Stannis' severity. The brothers together looked like two halves of a single weapon, law and charm, iron and silk. Robb Stark stood with northern lords at the opposite side, gray wind at his heel, the direwolf's presence a quiet threat. Catelyn Stark stood beside her son, her eyes scanning every face, searching for knives. The North had come, but it had not come kneeling. Cersei Lannister sat rigid upon a raised chair near the center, Tywin Baratheon close enough that her hand could rest on his shoulder like a shackle. The boy's face was pale. He stared at the hall as if it were a mouth ready to swallow him. Ser Kevan Lannister stood behind them, grim and watchful. Tyrion Lannister stood a few paces away, unchained but guarded, his expression sharp and unreadable. Mace Tyrell and Lady Olenna Tyrell sat with their people, composed, eyes bright. Varys lingered where shadows gathered. Peter Baelish smiled at everyone and no one. The High Septon stood before them with the seven-pointed star held like a blade of faith. His voice rolled through the hall, solemn and practiced. He spoke of unity, of the gods' displeasure, of the realm's need for peace. His words sounded brave in a place that had seen bravery turned into ash. Then Stannis Baratheon stepped forward. He did not shout. He did not charm. His voice was stone, and in its steadiness there was a kind of authority that did not ask permission. Robert Baratheon is dead, he said. Joffrey Baratheon is dead. Lord Tywin Lannister is dead. The realm has been bled by lies. Now we speak truth. Cersei's mouth tightened. Stannis continued, eyes sweeping the hall. The children of Queen Regent Cersei Lannister are not Roberts. They are Jaime Lannisters. This is known to the gods, known to men who died for it. Jon Arryn, Eddard Stark. A murmur ran through the hall like wind through reeds. Robb Stark es gaze sharpened. Catelyn's hand clenched. Cersei rose in a sudden flare of fury. Lies, she spat, voice ringing. You dare. The High Septon lifted a hand. Peace, he warned, but his eyes flicked uneasily. The Faith did not like open scandal. It liked scandal whispered behind closed doors and then punished publicly. Stannis looked at Cersei with cold contempt. Your lie killed the hand of the king, he said. It killed the realm's honor. It has killed enough. Renly Baratheon stepped forward, voice smoother, calming the air. This council is not a battlefield, he said. We are here to prevent war, not begin it in words. Robb Stark spoke then, his voice strong, young and hard. My father confessed to treason, he said, and his eyes fixed on Cersei. Because the crown held my sister, he took the black to spare her. Do not speak his name as if it is a tool to be used lightly. Stannis' gaze met Robb's. Eddard Stark's honor is why we are here, he said. A realm that kills men like him deserves the darkness that follows. Catelyn's breath caught at the phrase, darkness that follows, as if it echoed something else. Lady Olenna's voice cut in, mild and sharp. We will never finish if we simply trade accusations like small folk in a market, she said. We need terms. We need a settlement. Mace Tyrell cleared his throat, puffing himself up. The Reach seeks stability, he declared. We have fed this realm. We have provided its armies. We will not see it torn apart by brothers and widows. Cersei's eyes burned. Widows, she hissed. How kind. Ser Kevin stepped forward then, voice restrained but firm. Your Grace, he said to Cersei, and the title sounded strange when spoken to a woman who no longer had her father's shadow behind her. You know the city cannot endure another war. Not now. Not with winter on us. Not with the faith restless. Tommen's small hand clutched at Cersei's gown. Mother, he whispered, voice trembling. Cersei looked down at him. For a heartbeat, her fury faltered under the weight of his fear. Tyrion spoke quietly, his voice carrying because the hall had gone still. My sister is not wrong to fear humiliation, he said. But humiliation is not death. And death is what comes if this is not settled. Cersei's gaze snapped to him, poison bright. You, she breathed. You dare. I dare, Tyrion said. And there was no humor in it now. Because father is gone, and someone must dare to speak of survival. The High Septon lifted his star. The faith will not recognize a king born of adultery, he said, voice heavy with inevitability. The words fell like stones. If Stannis Baratheon is trueborn, the faith must consider him. Cersei's face went white. She looked around the hall, and for the first time she saw what her father would have seen immediately. The balance of power had shifted. The Tyrell's gaze was calm. The faith's was judging. The Riverlords watched like men who had lost too much to care about royal pride. The North stood rigid, hungry for their own. Even the Lannister men behind her looked on. As if wondering whether a lion without Tywin was still a lion. Stannis Baratheon stepped forward again. I will not ask you to love me, he said. I will ask you to obey the law, because without law we are beasts. Renly Baratheon spoke, and his voice softened the harshness without diminishing it. And I will ask you to live, he said, because if we tear each other apart, the realm will not be ours to rule at all. Robb Stark's eyes narrowed. What do you offer the North? He demanded. Stannis's gaze held him. Autonomy, he said bluntly. The North will keep its laws, its lords, its worship. You will swear to the Iron Throne's defense, and you will send men when the realm calls. In return, you will be left to rule your land as you see fit. A murmur rose among the northern lords. It was not joy. It was disbelief that such a thing might be spoken aloud. And my sisters? Robb asked, voice tight. Cersei flinched. Everyone's gaze turned to her. Lady Olenna's voice was soft as silk. If we are settling, dear, then we settle everything, she said. Cersei's jaw trembled. She looked at Tommen, small, frightened, her last living son. Her pride warred with her terror. At last she forced the words out like blood from a wound. Sansa Stark will be released, she said, voice brittle, upon oath that the North will not march on King's Landing. Robb's breath hitched. Caitlyn's eyes shone, fierce. And Arya? Caitlyn demanded. Cersei's face hardened. I do not have Arya Stark, she snapped. Find her yourselves. Caitlyn's hands clenched, but Robb touched her arm, steadying her. He looked back at Stannis. And what of the Lannisters? He asked. Stannis's voice was flat. They keep their lands, he said. So long as they bend, so long as they pay, so long as they do not rebel. Cersei's mouth twisted. You would let us live, she said, scorn and fear tangled. How merciful! Stannis's eyes were cold. I would rather face the true enemy with every sword I can gather, he said. Even yours. Silence fell again. Somewhere high above, a raven croaked in Harrenhal's broken rafters, as if amused. The High Septon lifted his star once more. Then we witness, he intoned, a settlement. Stannis Baratheon shall be recognized as king, by claim and by faith. He turned to Renly. Renly Baratheon shall serve as hand, to unite the realm's hearts with its law. He turned to Robb. Robb Stark shall hold the North with honored autonomy, sworn to the realm's defense. Cersei's face was a mask of pain. Tommen trembled beside her. Stannis Baratheon stepped forward, and Renly Baratheon stood at his shoulder. Together, they looked toward the hall, toward every banner, every lord, every hungry face. Then let the war end here, Stannis said, voice ringing in the blackened hall. Before it begins. It was not a cheer that followed, but a collective exhale. The sound of men choosing not to draw swords. Outside Harrenhal, the wind moaned through broken tower. It's like an old ghost, unimpressed. After the hall emptied, Harrenhal felt even more haunted. Torches burned lower. The voices that had filled the great hall were gone, leaving behind only the echo of arguments and the stale smell of sweat. Outside, banners flapped in wind like restless tongues. Men returned to tents and drank as if trying to drown the taste of compromise. In a smaller chamber, once a lord's war room, now simply a room where the realm tried to pretend it could plan. The leaders gathered again, drawn by a problem settlement could not solve. Stannis Baratheon stood over a map, one hand braced on the table, his finger stabbed at the north. Renly Baratheon stood beside him, less relaxed than he had been at Storm's End, his charm tempered by the weight of what he had heard. Davos Seaworth held the raven letter from Castle Black open, his weathered face grim. Robb Stark stood opposite, gray wind at his feet, the direwolf's gaze fixed on the humans as if judging whether they deserved to survive. Catelyn Stark's hands were clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Lady Olenna Tyrell sat in a chair near the hearth, small and composed, as if she had been born to watch men gamble with lives. Melisandre lingered in shadow, red silk barely stirring, eyes bright. "The council is done," Renly said quietly. "The war is ended before it begins." "The realm has agreed not to bleed itself," Lady Olenna corrected. "That is not the same as being healed." Davos tapped the letter. "Castle Black claims a Wight attacked the Lord Commander in his own chambers," he said. "It took fire to stop it. They ask for men. And dragonglass." Stannis's jaw tightened. "Dragonglass," he repeated, tasting the word like a curse. "If it is true, then the old tales are not dead." Robb Stark's voice was low. "We do not speak of those tales in the north as if they are jokes," he said. "But even so, if the dead walk, why now? Why after all these years?" Melisandre's voice was a whisper that carried anyway. "Because the realm's fires have burned low," she said. "Because blood has been spilled enough to wake what sleeps." Catelyn's gaze flicked to her, wary. "And you would have us believe you," she said, voice sharp. "After all the strange things you speak of? After shadow and prophecy?" Melisandre smiled faintly. "You do not need to believe me," she said. "You need only believe what your eyes will show you." Renly's mouth tightened. "I would prefer not to see corpses walk," he muttered. Stannis turned his cold gaze on him. "Prefer," he said. "That word has no meaning to Winter." He looked back down at the map. "We have ended one war," he said. "If this is real, we must prepare for another. One that cannot be won by gold or marriages." Lady Olenna's eyes gleamed. "You have no idea how distressing it is to hear a king speak so sensibly," she murmured. Renly shot her a look. "You're enjoying this far too much." "I enjoy survival," Lady Olenna said. "It is a habit." Stannis's finger traced th. "E route north. Castle Black will need men," he said. "Not criminals and boys. Men, knights, supplies, food, steel." Robb's brows knit. "The North can send," he said, then paused, thinking of his own people and Winter. "But Winter will bite us as well. If we strip ourselves, we risk starving." Davos spoke softly. "If the wall falls, you will starve anyway," he said, "because there will be no harvest after." Catelyn's throat worked. She thought of Winterfell stores, of the small folk, of children with red noses and thin coats. She thought of Arya still missing, Sansa still trapped until the terms were honored. And she thought of Eddard Stark's eyes at Moat Cailin, the seriousness that had been colder than any wind. "We have to treat this as real," she said, voice steadying. "Ned would not speak of such things lightly." Robb glanced at her, then nodded grudgingly. "We do." Renly leaned forward, hands on the table. "If we march half the realm north, he said, voice careful. The south will be exposed. The Ironborn will raid. The Dornish will watch. The city will panic. Stannis' eyes did not soften. Then we do not march half, he said. We levy. We send detachments. We reinforce the watch. We rebuild the abandoned castles along the wall. We fortify Winterfell as a second line. Lady Olenna made a soft sound. And who pays for all this? Stannis' gaze flicked toward her, unamused. The realm, he said. The gold you hoard. The grain you store. The swords you polish for wars of vanity. Mace Tyrell was not in the room, but Lady Olenna's expression suggested she could already hear her son sputtering. You will find, she said dryly, that convincing lords to spend coin on a threat they cannot see is like convincing a drunk to pour out his wine. Then we will show them, Davos said, and his voice was grim. If the Watch can capture a Wight, if they can bring proof. Robb's face tightened. That is a dangerous task. All tasks are dangerous now, Stannis said. Melisandre stepped closer to the table, her red sleeves brushing the map's edge like blood spilling. You will need more than men, she murmured. You will need fire. The dead fear fire. Renly's eyes narrowed. And you would like to be the one holding it. Melisandre's smile was small. I already do, she said, and the brazier flame seemed to flicker in response, as if listening. Stannis looked at Davos. Send ravens, he ordered, to every lord who swore today. Tell them the first proof has come. Tell them the king commands supplies for the wall. His voice sharpened. And tell them refusal will be treated as treason. I will not beg men to save their own children. Renly inhaled slowly, then nodded. I will go south, he said. I will soothe the realm's nerves. I will make this levy palatable. I will smile while you threaten. Stannis grunted, accepting. Robb spoke, voice firm. The North will begin preparing immediately, he said. If the Watch needs men, we will send. And Winterfell will be ready. Cailin's gaze went to the map, to the thin line of the wall, to the vast blank beyond. The blank looked suddenly too large. Lady Olenna watched them all, her sharp mind tallying risk. You have ended a war today, she said softly. Do not be foolish enough to think you have ended war itself. Stannis' finger remained on the north. No, he said, voice low. We have simply chosen the right war. Outside, the wind rose, rattling Harrenhal's ruined stone like bones in a sack. The ranging was a mistake the moment they left the wall. Jon Snow felt it in his bones before any footprint proved it. The world beyond was too quiet, too still, as if the forest had been holding its breath for centuries and was now waiting for the breath to be taken from it. They went anyway. Jeor Mormont could not remain blind after seeing a corpse claw at his throat. The old bear's pride had always been forged in duty. Now it was forged in fear for the realm that had forgotten him. He sent a small group, men who could move fast, men who could return with proof or not return at all. Jon Snow was among them because Jon had seen, and because Jon had burned the thing, and because the Lord Commander's eyes had lingered on him afterward with a new kind of recognition. Samwell Tarly came because he had stumbled into horror and survived it, and because he knew, in his frightened way, that knowledge mattered now more than muscle. They moved through the frozen forest with cloaks pulled tight and breaths muffled. Snow lay heavy, branches drooping beneath Wight. The sky above held a strange greenish tinge at the edges, like bruising light. Ghost moved ahead, silent as a shadow, nose low, ears pricked. At first they found only emptiness. Abandoned camps, old fire pits buried under snow, bones picked clean. Wildlings had passed through in numbers, but not like raiders, like refugees. Then they found the body. It lay in a hollow, half covered by drift, eyes wide, skin pale, mouth slightly open. The man's throat had been torn out, but there was no blood in the snow. The wound looked old, yet the flesh had not rotted the way it should have. It looked preserved by cold and something else. Chain it, the ranger leader ordered, voice tight. Samwell Tarly made a thin sound. We're taking it back, he whispered. Jon's mouth was dry. "We need proof," he said. The words felt heavy. Proof meant handling death with your hands and hoping it did not wake. They wrapped chains around the corpse's wrists and ankles, heavy iron links biting into dead flesh. The corpse did not move. It did not breathe. Sam watched with horror, as if expecting it to open its eyes and smile. When they dragged it, it slid over snow with an awful ease, like a sled made of meat. Jon's stomach turned, but he forced himself to keep his grip. His fingers burned with cold even through gloves. They moved back toward the wall, dragging their proof. The forest watched. Sam's breath came in sharp puffs. His eyes darted. Do you feel that?" he asked Jon in a whisper that seemed too loud. Jon nodded without speaking. He felt it too. Not the cold. Something else. Presence. As if the trees held eyes and the snow held ears. Ghost paused suddenly, hackles rising. A low growl rumbled from his chest. The rangers halted, hands on swords, scanning white and gray. Jon stared between the trunks. For a heartbeat he thought he saw movement. A pale shape slipping behind a tree too tall. Too smooth. Then nothing. "Keep moving." The leader hissed, voice strained. "Do not stop." They moved faster. Chains rattled. The corpse slid, leaving a shallow groove in snow. Sam stumbled, nearly falling. Jon grabbed his arm, steadying him. "Keep breathing," Jon muttered. "Just keep breathing." Sam's face was white, lips blue. "I don't want to die," he whispered, voice breaking. Jon's jaw tightened. "Then don't," he said. It was not comfort. It was command. Sometimes command was all that kept fear from swallowing you. The forest grew darker as clouds slid over the pale sun. The greenish tinge faded into gray. Wind whispered through branches like distant voices. The snow underfoot did not crunch as loudly anymore. That frightened Jon more than the noise would have. Ghost growled again, low and urgent. Jon's eyes flicked toward the corpse they dragged. The dead man's blue eyes stared up at the sky, unblinking. Jon's skin prickled. He stared harder, half expecting the eyes to move. They did not. Not yet. At last, the wall's immense white line rose ahead, cutting through trees like a cliff carved by gods. Relief hit Jon so hard his knees almost buckled. Men on the wall shouted when they saw them, voices faint in wind. They crossed beneath the gate, and the air felt warmer, as if the wall itself held back more than cold. Hands grabbed the chains. Men swore. Someone made the sign of the seven. Someone else whispered an old prayer to the old gods. Jeor Mormont met them in the yard, face grim. His bruised throat was still purple, his eyes fixed on the corpse. "You brought it," he said. Jon nodded. "A gift?" he murmured, remembering his own chamber filled with smoke and screams. Jeor Mormont's jaw tightened. "Good," he said. "Now we send for the king." Samwell Tarly swayed, near collapse. "The king?" he croaked. Jon looked up at the wall, at the men moving along its top like black ants against white. He thought of crowns and councils far south. He thought of Stannis Baratheon's hard eyes, Renly Baratheon's charm, Robb Stark's wolfish determination, Cersei Lannister's rage. He thought, with a chill deeper than snow, that none of them would truly understand until they saw blue eyes in dead flesh. And by then, it might be too late. Snow turned the Kingsroad into a pale ribbon that disappeared into white. The column moved through it like a dark wound in the world. Men in cloaks, horses laboring, banners furled against wind. The realm's new unity was not a song. It was a trudging procession under a sky that seemed determined to bury everything. Stannis Baratheon rode at the head, cloak snapped by wind, jaw set, eyes forward. He did not smile. He did not speak unless necessary. He rode like a man heading to a judgment he could not avoid. Renly Baratheon rode beside him, green cloak dusted with snow, his face sobered by cold and the weight of what lay ahead. His charm still existed. It always would, but it had become quieter, turned inward. He watched the men behind them, gauging fear, measuring morale, and he understood, perhaps for the first time, that a smile was not always enough. Davos Seaworth rode a little behind, salt-stained face weathered, eyes scanning the sky and tree line out of habit. Beside him, Brienne of Tarth sat rigid in her saddle, armor creaking, gaze sharp as a spear. She watched Renly Baratheon with the same fierce devotion, but now devotion had been joined by something darker. Protectiveness sharpened by knowledge that some enemies did not bleed. Robb Stark's riders joined the column farther north, emerging from swirling snow like gray ghosts. The Northmen's faces were hard, their cloaks heavy, their eyes accustomed to winter's cruelty. Gray wind ran ahead, paws silent, body a streak of muscle and threat. The direwolf's presence changed the air. Even southern horses shied from him, sensing something wild and ancient. Robb Stark rode near Stannis and Renly, his expression grim. "The levies will follow," he said, voice loud enough to cut through wind. "White Harbor sends ships with grain. The Umbers send men. The Karstarks send steel. We are not empty-handed." Stannis nodded once. "Good." Renly glanced at Robb, eyes narrowed. "And your sister?" he asked quietly. "Sansa Stark." Robb's jaw tightened. "Released," he said, and the word sounded like he did not trust it even now. "She rides for the north under escort." The queen insisted on keeping assurances. Gold, hostages, words. He spat the last, bitter. "But she is coming." Catelyn Stark rode farther back with northern lords, her face set against wind. In her mind, she counted every mile between Sansa and home, as if miles could be measured like stitches. Behind them all, the realm's uneasy coalition moved. Reach knights with roses embroidered, storm lords in dark mail, river lords with tired faces, men from King's Landing who had never seen true winter and now looked shocked by its indifference. "They're frightened," Davos murmured, riding close to Stannis for a moment. "Not only of the cold." Stannis's eyes remained forward. "They should be," he said. Far ahead, the wall rose from the storm like a white cliff carved by gods. It grew larger with each mile, immense and unreal. Men fell silent as it came into view because the wall made every castle and crown look small. At Castle Black, Eddard Stark stood on the wall's walkway, black cloak snapping, face pale with cold. He had arrived only days before, escorted by the Watch, and the vow had been spoken beneath a sky so clear it felt cruel. Now he watched the host approach with a strange mixture of relief and dread. He had wanted the realm to remember the wall existed. Now it did. Eddard's hands rested on the ice-cold parapet. His breath fogged in front of him. Below, men moved like dark ants in snow, banners barely visible. At their head rode Stannis Baratheon and Renly Baratheon side by side, and behind them rode Robb Stark with wolves in his wake. For a moment, Eddard felt something like hope. The realm had ended its war early. The realm had chosen unity over vanity. The realm had come north. Then, beyond the wall, far out where snow and forest met in gray blur, a gust of wind rose that did not feel like ordinary wind. It felt like a breath drawn by something vast. Ghost, down in the yard, lifted his head and snarled toward the darkness beyond the gate. Jon Snow stood nearby, watching the approaching host with eyes that looked older than his years. When he saw Eddard Stark on the walkway, something tightened in his face. Recognition, confusion, the ache of blood and distance. Eddard's gaze met Jon's for a heartbeat, and in that glance 1,000 unspoken things passed. Fatherhood denied, duty chosen, winter coming. The horns sounded then, low and mournful, echoing off ice and stone. One blast, then a second, not the greeting of allies. A warning. Men froze, horses stamped. The host below stirred like a beast startled in its sleep. On the wall, Eddard Stark's blood ran cold. He stared north into swirling white, and understood with sudden certainty that the realm's unity had arrived just in time to witness the beginning. The long night did not care about councils. It had only been waiting for the living to gather.